So I guess we could begin now. It's already 2 o'clock on my clock, on my watch. Welcome everyone to ICA Africa's webinar on leveraging digital innovation to improve resilience of agricultural cooperatives in Africa. We all know that as agricultural cooperatives, or indeed most cooperatives in Africa, are faced with a lot of challenges. However, we would like to see those challenges as opportunities. And opportunities, especially if the cooperatives themselves could leverage on things like digital or digitalization to improve their resilience, especially during times of crisis. We are just in the pandemic, the crisis of COVID-19, and we know the challenges that have befallen us, but as well, we can see the opportunities that are unfolding for businesses, especially agribusinesses in this everywhere in the world. So we believe that by end of today, we shall have achieved the objectives of our webinar. And the objective generally is to identify what strategies the agricultural cooperatives and other agribusinesses can leverage on in order to improve their resilience, especially the digital. Also, to share practical examples using cases, what has been done, to see what we can do as agricultural cooperatives to leverage on these existing digital opportunities and innovations, share practical examples, and see how jointly we could design or have partnerships and collaborations in designing policies and programs or opportunities that we can leverage on these digital innovations during crisis times, and even to improve performance as agricultural cooperatives and businesses in all areas of the agricultural value chain. That is from input, production, distribution to consumption. So welcome everyone to this. We have with us very experienced people in all these areas of digital transformation and innovation. And we hope that we are all going to benefit and have a lively discussion. As housekeeping matters, this afternoon, we would like everyone to mute their audio, their mics, and also their cameras, unless you're making a presentation. If you have got a question for the speakers, kindly write it on the chat box. We have people who are going to monitor your questions and issues for certain speakers, and that will be addressed. Other than that, I wish everyone a good discussion, and I now would like to invite our Master of Ceremony, the MC, Dr. Sifa Chioge, the Regional Director at International Cooperative Alliance Africa. Welcome, Dr. Sifa.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Karebi. First and foremost, I'll give my opening remarks and then proceed with facilitating the conference. So ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And welcome to our regional conference termed Leveraging on Digital Innovation to Improve the Resilience of Agricultural Cooperatives in Times of Crisis. Indeed, there is a supportive evidence that cooperatives in general are more resilient enterprises or form of enterprises, and more so during the time of crisis. However, the current crisis brought about COVID-19, climate change, and the opportunities of globalization, social media, and wider internet access are unprecedented. For example, agricultural cooperative, little be it, during the lockdowns copied quite well, and that was really more on the short time. And especially because of the international logistical disruptions, the cooperative, agricultural cooperatives were in the far front, ensuring that we have food on the tables, using the local and localized production and distribution channels. Nevertheless, to ensure sustainability, agricultural cooperatives have to embrace more robust digital innovative platforms over and above the social media platform, which we saw mostly used during the lockdown. During the lockdown, we all know that among the success factors for agricultural cooperatives, we do have affordable financing, access to markets, professionalism, that is a professional management, efficient and effective means of production. From the aforementioned, we do also have digital innovation solutions that we'll hear from our different speakers are lined up today. And they span across all those success factors for agricultural cooperatives. We have some who will speak from the financial, the markets, the professional management, among others, and all with the digital solutions or technologies which will be mainstreamed in all. We also know that the greatest innovations in agriculture have been mechanization, agricultural chemistry, and also technologies, use of technologies, both digital and non-digital, and have used them to reap off the benefits of the said great revolutions. However, our agricultural cooperative in Africa still need to embrace those greatest revolutions to eradicate poverty and food insecurity on the continent. And hence the importance of today's meeting. I will not want to talk much on the nitty-gritties because the speakers will elaborate each one of them on those key success factors, but also the greatest revolutions to ensure that we also, Africa is on the map, not on the receiving hand, but on the driver's seat. So without further ado, I would like first to thank you and also wish you fruitful discussions and also declare this meeting or conference open. God bless Africa. Thank you. Yeah, I will now move into the program. If it can be projected, please. We have our program, session 1. Please, can we have the program projected? Asira. If you are not ready, I think I will then, yes, can we want to look at the program and see how it will, at least the next 2.5 or 3 hours will be spent. Yeah, so we have got 4 sessions. Please, can you scroll down? The very first one will be the background paper, which will be presented by Mr. Ken Loheto from FAO. The session 2 is a panel discussion with more than around 5 speakers, where we'll hear about the finances, the marketing, the technologies, and other factors, human factors, and professionalism in agricultural cooperatives. Then the third session is more about some case studies, talking about agriculture cooperative and digitalization and innovation. We'll hear one case study from IFAD and another one from ICAO on the best practices. And finally, we shall have the last session with policy recommendations and the collaborations from CCW. And to conclude the day, we'll have conclusions and recommendations which will be read by Dr. Karemi. And first and foremost, I would like first to thank our sponsors. We have 4 sponsors, if we can please have them projected. We Effects, we have We Effects, IFAD, CCW, and African Prudentials as together with ICA Africa as sponsors of this particular conference. Now, without taking much of your time, I would like now to kick off with section 1, and I would like to make a presentation of Mr. Ken Loheto, who will be the first presenter. Mr. Ken is the Digital Innovation Strategy Specialist at FAO Regional Office for Africa, where he's facilitating the implementation of the Digital Innovation Strategy of the region, as well as the launch of the pilot's Digital Villages Initiative in Africa. Mr. Loheto coordinated for 11 years digital agriculture and youth entrepreneurship projects at the Technical Center for Agriculture and Rural Cooperation, CTA, which covers the CPA, the SCP countries, that is African, Caribbean, and Pacific countries. He also worked with institutions including the African Development Bank, UNESCO, the Panos Institute for Africa, etc. He holds an MBA and Master's in Information Sciences. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Kenheo. Please, Mr. Kenheo, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Doctor, and thank you, colleagues. It is a real pleasure for me to share with you these insights and present this on behalf of FAO and particularly on behalf of the Director of the Regional Office of Africa, the ADG of RAF, as we say. So I will be sharing with you my presentation in 4 different steps. First, I'll be presenting the agricultural development context, including economic context of Africa briefly, as it relates to this theme in particular. I'll be talking then afterward about the digital opportunities, so some of the opportunities that digital technology can offer cooperative agribusinesses. Then I'll be briefly going through some of the contributions of FAO in addressing some of the challenges that will have been highlighted. And finally, I'll make some key suggestions regarding how we could address the challenges that digitalization is posing for agribusinesses and how the opportunity could be seized. So as we have experienced all, the COVID-19 pandemic particularly has generated a decrease of about 2.1% on average in Africa. And we are experiencing increased number of poor people. And this situation is strongly impacting cooperatives as well, as we'll see on the next slide, cooperative and agribusinesses. And generally in Africa, we have seen that we have actually the poverty situation that seems to be worsening. From a study that FAO and others have made, we have seen, for example, that the prevalence of undernourishment may even rise up to 25% by 2030 in Africa, which is a big challenge for all of us involved in the agri-food system. And other challenges are related to youth unemployment. That is also rising because we have many young people that are involved in the agri sector, that are involved in agribusiness, in cooperative, that are also facing challenges. And some of the critical issues that COVID-19, for example, is bringing can be highlighted as you are seeing there, especially regarding access to finance that has been strongly limited for many of the agribusinesses that are operating in Africa. The GSMA, which is the organization of telecom operator who are involved in the mobile sector, they've made a study and particularly covered Kenya from July to December 2020. And they found out that two key elements that have a negative impact for agribusinesses are access to finance, difficulty to access input, and also reduce access to markets. So you can see some of the stuff there. And in another framework, the organization that I've been working for in the past, they made a study in Kenya as well that has shown that agricultural businesses are not effectively, don't have maybe the opportunity to benefit from digital technologies. For example, it has been found out that youth agribusinesses in Kenya, most of them are not using digital agriculture services. So 75% of them are not using those technologies. Other challenges are related to the poor telecommunication infrastructure, the high cost of ICTs. For example, 1 gigabyte of mobile data corresponds almost to 15% of the monthly revenue on average in Africa, while in other countries is maybe less than 2% of that monthly revenue. So we have many challenges for that agribusinesses are facing. But fortunately, even though they are not panacea, digitalization is providing opportunity really to tackle many of those challenges. For example, the CTA and Dalberg, they made a study in 2019 that has found out that if we bundled digital agriculture services, we may increase income of farmer by at least 57%, and that we may also increase yield by more than 100%. This is what that study has shown, and it was a study that has been made across Africa. So we can see that digitalization has a lot of potential for recovery from COVID. And we have other new technologies, such as, for example, the use of blockchain or drones. We have also, at the level of Africa, a great number of submarine cables. So I'm talking here about the ICT infrastructure that really can facilitate the availability of internet. We are having more and more those connectivity in our region. We also have at policy level, many organizations that are investing really, for example, in e-agriculture strategies, so that we can really see the critical bottleneck that we are facing, and that we can also see what are the solutions that may help to address all these bottlenecks. The African Union has also recently, about 2 years ago, they have developed the digital transformation strategy. So digital transformation strategy for Africa. That has highlighted a number of areas where we need to strengthen effort and where we could really have a lot of benefit from the use of digitalization. And briefly to go through a couple of examples, we have seen that digitalization has been very effective in many instances with farmer organizations as well in the cooperatives. For example, the Nukafe cooperative of Uganda, coffee farmers, they have been using digital tools in, let's say, the last couple of years. And for example, they have profiled all the members using tools, including drone. They have also profiled the farms, and the use of those tools have helped, especially the use of drone and the mapping of the farms have helped to really use the profiles that have been produced as collateral for access to finance. And this has helped them, for example, to have more quickly certification for fair coffee, and they have been able to sell to buyers at premium price. And also this has also encouraged many organizations working on traceability to provide them with loans or grants that can help them really improve and scale up those kind of initiatives. The EU, for example, gave them in 2019, I think, a grant of €1 million so that they can try to scale up this kind of use of digital technology. So these are examples showing that if we leverage effectively digital tools, we can really facilitate increased generation of revenues and also increase credibility for farmers and cooperatives. On another level, digitalization, as it has been already said, has really helped the organizations that were or have quickly embraced those tools to be more resilient facing COVID-19. And particularly, the use of digitalization has helped many farmers in Kenya, for example, through the study that GSMA has made, to have a better access to input. And also they see that this can help them have improved, let's say, opportunity to have better prices for produce that have been, that they are making. And many organizations that have focused on using digital in that scheme, they have really increased their turnover. Now, I would like briefly to mention a couple of actions that FAO has been undertaking to support digitalization in African agriculture. We have many solutions that we have helped develop. For example, in Senegal, Rwanda, we have facilitated the production of crop and weather calendar apps, livestock apps, agri-marketplace apps, a number of tools that different stakeholders are using and are experimenting, which are giving them more resilience opportunities. We also have recently launched a new pilot project that we call the Digital Village Initiative for Africa, in the framework of which we will be strengthening resilience and also facilitating transformation of rural setting and transformation of agri-food system in a number of countries that are pilots. These initiatives that we are undertaking in the Regional Office of Africa of FAO are really based on a new strategy that we have launched, that we have recently developed, through which we will be working with government, but also with a number of stakeholders, including cooperatives. Now, I would like to go through some key suggestions that we may consider when we want to use digital tools to really support resilience for agribusinesses and also support the transformation of the agri-food system. And the first suggestion will be that we really work to strengthen what we call at FAO digital inside agribusinesses and cooperatives. And that means that, first of all, we need to boost how we are internally as organization digital ready, and how we can improve our capacity to really understand and impact digital agriculture. This goes from, for example, working to move from paper-based to digital business services or systems, including, for example, how we manage records, how we manage sales, how we manage collaboration. This has also to do with moving from manual to digital production and commercialization agribusiness tools, using, when possible, different apps for ag, so agricultural applications. If possible, for example, in the framework of cooperative, using and sharing drone applications, drone usage, and e-commerce platform, etc., etc. We also need internally to move from analog to digital managers. And this means that the staff that are involved in the management of agricultural cooperative, agricultural businesses need to improve their digital culture, need to improve their digital agriculture capacity. And of course, this requires financial resources, but first of all, the most important is really a mindset shift that we need to have, because we can do a lot with the mindset shift to really facilitate the mobilization of resources, and much can be done as well with limited resources. Another key element that I would like to suggest is really to develop a data and digital transformation strategy especially in cooperative, particularly a regional cooperative or even national cooperative, and also specifically having a digital and KM, if possible, officer. So somebody needs really to be in charge of that. And that strategy could consider key areas like customer, how we interact with customers, including in some cases with the consumer, the general consumer. This has to do as well, is related to how we manage data, for example. And also, as I have been saying, leadership is critical. The last 2 points that I would like to mention as part of my suggestions are concerned are first, for example, that we need a cooperative could see how they can better develop partnership with digital agriculture ecosystem players. This means that they need to really develop capacity to advocate for increased digitalization of the agricultural sector, better engaging government, telecom operators, etc. And also engage the youth, especially young innovators, especially women innovators, so that they bring their capacity to support the sector. And finally, we would like to suggest that now we really need to implement, we really need deliberately to try to implement critical activities, projects that may fall within different value chain segments using digital agriculture and seizing opportunities such as the African Continental Free Trade Agreement and others. So this is what I wanted to share with you. These are the 4 key points that I mentioned that you can see on the screen. And I thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to responding to any question that you may have. Thank you very much. It seems you are muted.
Can you hear
now? Yes, we can hear now. No more. We can't hear no more anymore.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, good.
Thank you. I was saying thank you very much, Ken, for this very insightful presentation, background paper. which almost have taken us through the introduction up to almost the conclusion of what we need to hear. And I know now that whoever will come will somehow relate to what you have already said. And I hear you very much, and very much grateful about first giving us the context, saying that we are not doing very well with this COVID-19. It has taken us backward, and we are projected to have GDP, which is going down. And this has impacted even our farmers, our cooperators, and everybody else. But having said that, there are opportunities which are also being brought by this COVID-19 situation and the lockdown, which is a digitizations. And you even gave some few possible examples of these digital tools which have been used in Uganda and the like, with the mapping and the drones, which could be used as collateral to access financing. We have said that among the successes in agriculture, access to affordable finance is very key, and also access to markets. And you have shown that also with digital mapping, indeed, we can also tap into new or existing markets, and they have at the premium prices. You have given the solution on what you are currently doing vis-a-vis the same, which is the applications which we have developed in Rwanda, Senegal, but also the digital village examples and what needs to be done. Especially you talked about the insights. What I pick was also the suggestions for digital insight, but also digital partnership and implementation. So that is very important. I would like now to maybe ask to see if there are questions directed to you, clarification seeking or otherwise. But so far, I've only seen points, comments, which are more or less validating what you have said. So far, I've not seen any questions, but if they come at a later stage, definitely then we'll pick them up and submit the same to you. So there is that question which has come from Victor, talking about the challenges of low literacy, which was also alluded by Ken, by the way, and the high cost of digitization. How can we address such challenges? So Ken, do you have any thinking around the question? So yes, yeah, we know that Africa leads in illiteracy, which somehow will hamper how fast we can consume digitization, and also the costs. And this is especially knowing that we are also leading in being the poorest continent. So the floor is yours, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Doctor. Yes, thank you for all the different comments and appreciation. Now, regarding the question that I'm seeing, of course, unfortunately, regarding literacy, I can't propose something that would be revolutionary. We have been addressing that for decades. Hopefully, our governments and partners will continue on that trend, maybe accelerate the solution that they are implementing so that we have a higher literacy rate. However, for example, when we consider cooperatives, I work on a project with IFAD in Kenya, supporting young entrepreneurs, young agripreneurs. But what we have seen is that, especially when we are talking about the youth, in cooperative, you always have 1, 2, 3 people that knows how to use computers, and that can really help the group to go to the net to better understand the technology. So we need to better rely and collaborate with those who can be considered as mediators in the different groups, in the cooperative, in the agribusiness. We need to rely on them. And we have, of course, high cost of digitalization. But fortunately, we have tools today that somehow, let's say, not expensive to use. For example, using Facebook pages, you can really promote your business. You can increase access to market. And this is what some of the youth that I work in, I'm sorry, I'm giving a lot of examples from Kenya. I'm not from Kenya, but I worked a bit in Kenya. So I work with Study Foundation in Nakuru and Kilifi County. We supported different youth groups. And what we have seen is that those who have been using Facebook pages, social media basically, to try to reach out to new customers, they have been able to be a bit more resilient when, for example, the restaurants or the schools that they were selling their products to have been closed because of the lockdown. So we can leverage on social media platform, even another platform that is WhatsApp. It has another feature, but WhatsApp for business is really possible to use now. And you can really market strongly, very professionally, your produce, your product, your services using even WhatsApp. So we need to identify, while we are facing challenge to acquire, let's say, expensive tools, we need to leverage on those tools that are easy to access. Maybe some people, maybe some of our stakeholders don't know those tools. This is why we need to develop capacity building by leveraging also on peer learning inside the organization. So we know a lot, but maybe we are not sharing enough. Maybe we are not leveraging enough also on a peer learning. And of course, we have to continue advocacy, for example, toward government and other players that can support us. This is also some of the idea that I've shared, so that they can facilitate increased digitalization of the sector, so that mobile coverage is a reality in most of our rural communities. And so that, why not, the agricultural stakeholders, farmers, have the opportunity to use digital to benefit from, for example, internet access at subsidized rates. I know that this could be challenging for our tax, let's say our government who are relying on taxes and stuff, and also telecom operator will be difficult to really they won't easily, I would say, accept that. But if cooperative engage more and more into advocacy on digital agriculture, building alliances with other civil society players that are in that sector, I believe that there will be some change. I would believe that there will be strength in the mobilization, in the engagement, in the advocacy of cooperatives. So we may discuss a lot on these issues. I mean, answers are not easy, but these are some insights, and maybe others have more to share. I'm ready to also listen and learn from that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ken. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello, okay. Yeah, thank you then. Yeah, thank you very much. I think for the interest of time, please, Ken, I would like you to respond on the chats. We have very good other questions which have come along, like the one from Onya Kinan is talking about if we have got any framework for assessing digital readiness for farmers organizations. Anybody can respond if at all you know, and especially you can. There is also Kazimwe who has come up with some first commending what you have done, but also talking about the costs of internet and the connectivity challenges, especially for private, for primary cooperative, which we know. Munia also from Morocco had also a very genuine question, by the way. We take things for granted, saying that agriculture cooperative need training to how to use even social media and how to promote their products. We might think that just putting Facebook is as simple as it is, but not everybody will look at it as it is that simple. So I agree that some might still need training for how to use the Facebook pages and other social medias, and how to advertise online. There is also another question from Rwanda, talking about, yes, there are so many application operating different value chains and geographical area, and this could be interlinked and works one as a one. So there is needed to synchronize so that we can maybe also remove some confusions there. I will not read all of them. There is one from Juliet, which is a challenge not only to Ken, but to all of us. And I would like to read this and then maybe close this particular session one. It seems that agribusiness and cooperative, seems that for business, agribusiness and the cooperative to really benefit from this innovation, they will need to have a certain business acumen. And that is what presenters will be showing us today. And what it means is that access to market is indeed important, but cooperatives have to be trustworthy. Please, can you mute your microphones? What I mean is that access to market is indeed important, but the cooperative have to be trustworthy partner in order to market stakeholders to want to do business with them. Very fundamentally taught with that trustworthy. So we'd like to also have comments on answers to that as well, please. Thank you for those questions, and please, we can respond on the chat. And once again, thank you, Ken. I would like now to pass to the second session. We are a bit late, 10 minutes late, and you'll allow now me to move very fast to the second session. So please, Ken, keep responding on those various questions on the chats.
Okay.
Now, I would like now to move to the second session. We have panel session with 5 presenters. First is Miss Niti Deolilia. She's an associate program officer at the Institutions and the Ecosystem session of the International Trade Center, ICT, in Geneva, Switzerland. Niti is passionate about cooperative. She has worked extensively with farmer cooperatives in the countries of Africa, South Asia, and Southeast Asia. Her role has been pivotal in developing tools and methodology for strengthening cooperative at ITC. She has a master's degree in international development from the Graduate Institute of Geneva, and she has also been a Young India Fellow from Ashoka University, India. I will maybe pause here and let Niti take the floor before I could introduce the other panelists. Thank you, Niti. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sefa. Thank you, everyone. So am I audible and is my screen visible?
Yes, please.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So, yes. So as I said, I'm really glad for this opportunity and to speak on this important topic on how we can leverage digital innovation in the space of access to finance to help improve resilience of agriculture cooperatives. So whenever I think of digital innovation, access to finance, and farmers, what immediately comes to my mind is digital finance. So today I'm going to talk about 3 core important areas. One, the role of digital financial services, DFS, in role of DFS in the life of smallholder farmer. Second, the potential of cooperatives in leveraging DFS for its farmers. And third part would focus on the relevance for International Trade Center and international organizations in leveraging DFS for the cooperatives as well as for the cooperative members. So if I were a smallholder farmer, I would say that DFS has changed my life. It has helped me. It has helped me in different ways. I do not have my bank account, but I can still use mobile, internet, ATM to save money, to send money to my friends, to my relatives, whom I cannot even meet during pandemic. If I need to sow the seeds, I can take credit using DFS. It has helped me make quick payments. It has helped me make financial operations which were otherwise not possible for me. And more importantly, it has given me financial identity. Yes, DFS has been very important, but as a smallholder farmer, I'm also a bit upset because I see that there are just a few product offerings targeting farmer needs accurately. Also, the digital technology, it sometimes seems very complex to use DFS. They also have restrictive requirements, which makes it very difficult. Sometimes they, for example, need collaterals. Sometimes we are asked for financial identity, which we don't have necessarily. So it distances us from using DFS. The cost of operations is high. Even this problem illiteracy, especially among our women farmers, makes it difficult to use it effectively. So if we see from this lens of smallholder farmer, there is definitely a significant gap. There is a significant gap between the smallholder farmer and a DFS. The farmer wants to use it much more, especially given the time of crisis when the digital divide is growing. It wants to catch up on the digital innovations happening around. However, DFS, even if it tries to reach out to the farmers, it's not as sufficient as it should be. How do we fill this gap? We believe that it is the cooperatives which can be the connecting bridge between the DFS and the smallholder farmers. The cooperative principles and the values are such that they can potentially respond to the roadblocks which the DFS is facing currently. Let us go one by one through the DFS's roadblocks and how a cooperative could potentially address these challenges. One of the major roadblocks that the DFS operators have faced is their restricted outreach in the rural areas, which increases their cost of operations. On the other hand, cooperatives work with the farmers in the rural interiors. If the two collaborate, farmers could be accessed by the DFS in a much cost-effective manner. Secondly, we have seen that the DFS operators have been hesitant in engaging with farmers because they do not have records of the farmer's financial history. Indeed, but the cooperative can again provide relevant information to DFS operators because they are the ones who are keeping the member data. The third challenge which the DFS faces is their insufficient knowledge of the local context. On the other hand, once again, if we go to cooperatives, we see they can respond to this challenge by being helpful to the DFS in customizing the product offerings and helping farmers adapt the technology easily. Farmer steps is another challenge which the DFS have brought out. They are unable to trust farmers in their ability to repay if they are given credit. The cooperatives can be helpful because they are the ones who are helping farmers in income generating opportunities. They are helping farmers overcome financial losses and become financially healthy. Another challenge, and the last one that I would highlight, and most of you also brought it up in the discussion today, the farmers' illiteracy, the low internet connectivity. Yes, it restricts DFS from engaging with farmers, but we have also seen examples where farmers have been able to access these digital apps because the cooperatives give them training, because of the peer-to-peer support that the cooperative members give to each other. So definitely cooperatives have a role to play here, and they can potentially address these roadblocks which the DFS faces. If the two collaborate, they can help each other out. Interestingly and unfortunately, what we see is a different picture. There is still a very low coverage of DFS in cooperatives. We spoke with cooperatives in Ghana, in India, in Tanzania, in Zambia, to understand their perspective and why is there a restricted use of DFS. What we found out was that the cooperatives do not understand the potential benefits of DFS. They do not trust the available DFS. They have limited capacity to collaborate with the DFS. They have limited capacity to develop partnership, to build the membership record which the DFS requires. And in some regions where the cooperatives are actively adopting the DFS, the digital financial services, we do see that the adoption rate is slow and they need more support, more capacity building support to be able to adopt effectively. So here comes the relevance for organizations like International Trade Center. We believe that cooperatives are very significant partners in developing resilient global value chains, in addressing poverty, and in turn meeting our own targets for meeting and contributing to sustainable development goals. And because we value cooperatives, we have developed the assessment methodologies and tools to strengthen cooperatives' capacity. So we have realized that in order to access and to make collaborations with the DFS, they need to be strengthened overall in their leadership, that in their leadership, in their member engagement, in their market activities, in developing partnerships, in creating services for their members, in doing measurement and planning effectively, and in establishing governance in their cooperatives. So we have been focusing on these areas and building capacity to help cooperatives become a reliable partner, a trustworthy partner, not just to many, not just to DFS, but to also other stakeholders present in the ecosystem. So once a cooperative has been able to strengthen its capacity, become resilient, and use DFS, we have seen that it has not just benefited its members, but it has itself become a reliable and a trustworthy partner who is able to engage with digital innovations happening around, especially since the time of the pandemic. The cooperative which has been able to use DFS has been able to create and sustain business opportunities for itself. It has been able to diversify its service offering. So we have seen cooperatives also stepping into advocacy, providing nutrition to the members during the time of crisis using DFS. Also, it is turning out to be more reliable as an institution for bankers, for funders, for members. And because the cooperative has been able to stand with the members using these services and being a reliable partner for other stakeholders, it has been able to gain members' trust. So we have seen that the members are more willing to pay the membership fees, and also their repayment records have improved because of the sense of ownership that the members found in the cooperative during this time. So if I summarize quickly my presentation, I would say that the cooperatives have a huge potential to be the connecting link between the DFS and the smallholder farmers. But in order to do so, they need to be a trustworthy partner. They have to increase their own capacity. And that is why the relevance comes for international organizations like International Trade Center, who are willing to and who have been strengthening the capacity of cooperatives so that they can become a reliable partner, a trustworthy partner to different stakeholders, including DFS. And by being a strong partner for DFS, they are not just helping their members, but they're themselves becoming a strong player in the economy, a resilient player in the economy. So yes, we look forward to your questions and your comments and your suggestions. Thank you so much for the opportunity once again.
Thank you very much, Nit. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. And thank you for keeping time and for bringing forward one of the solutions to the problem which was highlighted by Ken, that is limited access to finance, especially during this pandemic era, which has made our farmers suffer losses because then they cannot produce or they cannot sell. So thank you for bringing that. We'll discuss maybe further this question, but we'd like first to finish all the sessions, the panelists, before we can then maybe have a meaningful, because some of the answers or questions will be answered by the next presentation. On the issue of finance, we also have another presenter, and it is Maurice Blom. who is the Chief Operating Officer at Scope Insights. Maris brings over 30 years of diverse and robust experience with a wide array of businesses, from large multinationals to startups to fund. For the past 7 years, she has been leading the high-performing professional team of Scope Insights to excel. Maris is passionate about creating linkages between financiers and businesses. So people who have got all those questions on finance, here comes the right person as well as Niti. She's the Scope Insight team lead for the collaborative project on Mix, and which is also supported by AGRA, whereby the partnership has developed and tested a set of standardized metrics to enable investors and lenders to compare the financial and the operating performance of agri-SMEs. This work is fundamental to creating transparency in the lending sphere and thereby reduce perceived risks. Prior to working with Scope Insight, she was a CAO or a CFO to an emerging market investment fund, managing director of a startup IT company, and executive director of a financial communications firm. All these experiences proved to be relevant in her quest to transform the agricultural sector in emerging markets through professionalism of agribusiness is very important indeed. Over and above finance, professionalism in cooperatives is very key. Maris holds an MSc in economics degree from the Groningen University in the Netherlands. So please join me in welcoming Maris. And before I can give her the floor, please keep an eye on the chat box. There are very nice informative discussions and responses and sharing of information and knowledge on the chat box. So Maris, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sifa, and thank you so much for having me. I think this is a very important topic, leveraging on the digital innovation, especially when it comes to access to finance. And my story will all be about data and how data can create these linkages between the different stakeholders in the agricultural sector, with the cooperatives right in the middle. But to start off, because we're all about also talking about crisis, right? So when what does an organization need to be more resilient? And recent research has showed that, I think it's also already been mentioned in the chat, that business acumen, right? So how are these organizations managed as a business? Their organizational maturity, their membership size, can they all manage it? The elite capture, limited business orientation, all those things that you can see here in the quote, do lead to more resilient businesses. And I think that Dr. Sifa, you also mentioned that in your introduction, the critical success factors for agribusinesses. By the way, when I say agribusinesses, I mean farm organizations, agri-SMEs, cooperatives, all types of organized farmers. But the critical success factors that you mentioned access to markets, access to finance, and professionalism. And I would like to turn that sort of around, because I think professionalism is the base of it all. If they're not professional, then that access to finance or markets will not really be easy to create. So where does it start? So what we see is that unprofessional agribusinesses, so organizations that are not really run as a business, are not resilient, but they have this effect on the whole ecosystem, because national governments don't always know what's happening, where are the weaker ones, where are the stronger ones. So they can't really be proactive in their rural development. Financial institutions find the whole sector very risky, so they shy away, leaving a really large market untapped, because all these agribusinesses do not get the funding and the financial funds that they need to invest in their business. The corporates and brands also don't know if these organizations are ready to provide to buy from, right? So local sourcing is hampered because of this. So they see risks and they often don't know how to manage that. And also, of course, the donors and the capacity builders. Of course, they do a lot of work in the field, but it's all quite fragmented. We all do something, but how do we pull it together? Do we know what each of us does and what the effect is, and can we really measure and compare the impact that is made? So this is what I would like to call the problem statement, so you will. And what we have done as Scope Insight about this is that we have provided a solution that can help this. And we just provide the solution because we need each and every one of you on this call, on this webinar to chip in and do the actual work. Because what we have in the first pillar, we have 3 pillars. On the first one, we have everything that has to do with graduating these agribusinesses to higher levels of professionalism. So how do we make them more professional? We have tools, and I'll tell a little bit more on the next slide how we do that. But we have tools and systems that help do that in a standardized way. And part of that are these scope assessments that I mentioned. These scope assessments gather a lot of data. And that data is part of our second pillar, because that data can not only be used to inform that first pillar, namely what kind of capacity building is needed for these agribusinesses to become more professional, but the value chain players, the lenders, the input providers, the governments, first and foremost, also can also use that data to really see what is necessary, how can we segment, and how can we benchmark. And then the third pillar is how we link. So how can we link between the two parts? So how can we link the scope, the more professional agribusinesses to the lenders, for instance, right? Because this is all about this webinar, or my contribution to it is about access to finance. So how can we link the more professional agribusinesses to the lenders so that they see a pipeline that is less risky? And by providing them the data, they can lower their cost so that a larger market becomes obtainable for them to service. So this is what we have to offer, and how it works is that we train local partners to become scope certified assessors. We have different scope assessments, different tools. We have a scope input retailer for the last mile retailer that delivers seeds of fertilizer to the agribusiness. We have tools for less mature agribusinesses. We have a tool for the more professional ones who have 3 years of financial accounts. So they're really quite mature and professional. We are going to develop a scope SACCO. So how can the SACCOs strengthen themselves so that they can provide loans to their members? And we are also going finished with the development of a scope rapid. And a scope rapid, a very quick assessment that will be especially interesting for governments. Because that will lead to a national database of all the cooperatives, and really see and dig in and analyze what is exactly happening in that country. So with those different assessments, the data is collected. I'll show you that is also digitized and scalable. With those insights, capacity building needs to be provided. So how do you increase them to higher levels of professionalism? And we don't do that. So we, again, rely on our local partners who do that. And then what we advise is to go back, do assessments to see what the impact was of that capacity building. And also that agribusiness then builds a track record. That track record is something that they can then also share to market players, to financial institutions, and so that in that way they can get access to markets and also maybe finance. So going through that, once they meet the market requirements, they can be linked to to the markets. So that's the final step in this approach. And what does that mean? Well, what's our tools? Our tools are based on our scope methodology. And the scope methodology is, as I mentioned earlier, it's standardized. So the tool in West Africa, East Africa, it's all the same, because running a business doesn't change much if you're in Cote d'Ivoire or if you're in Kenya. So, and we used, you can see the things we used here on the right-hand side in developing this. There are 8 different dimensions in the tool. And we look at operations, which mean things like, do they have storage facilities? What is their logistics, etc. Internal management, and that's very much also about governance. Then we have the sustainability. Are they inclusive? Gender, youth, that also we measure. And of course, the financial management. How do they track how their financials are going, and do they know where they make money and where they don't? And then there's of course the production base. That's where they get the members. So how are they organized? How are they on top of things there? External risks, droughts, floods. Do they know their risks, and do they know how to mitigate it? Enabling environment. Are they all on their own, or are they in a community that really provides them a more stable base? And of course, the link to the markets. For lenders, that is very, very important. If they don't have a strong link to the market, then it will be very difficult for them to earn their money back. So I already mentioned that the way that, because our tools are standardized, it gathers the same data everywhere. And that same data can lead to that benchmarking, learning. Then you can compare Cote d'Ivoire with Kenya or any other country. You can compare sectors, you can compare programs, you can share learnings over organizations. So different NGOs or different multilaterals can really share and learn from each other. And this, what we have seen is that what often happens if after that first assessment and that information is given back to the organization, because as you can see, I hope you can see that each of these 8, we score from 1 to 5, and there's also an overall score, that these scores, as soon as we provide those back to the organization and explain why they scored high or low, because 1 is not very good and 5 is best in class, then that's where the sort of the mindset changes, right? Because that's what we were talking about earlier as well. If they see what they need to do to become more professional, then, and also one of the things is that we ask them on how they use technology, then that is where their mindset changes. And they say, okay, if this is necessary to become more professional, we can do that. So that's where the ownership starts. That's where their drive starts. And we've seen that quite a few times already, and it's really exciting to see. Well, then how does it work? Our clients have access to a dashboard where they enter all the names of the agribusinesses they want to assess. They then can assign assessments to certified assessors. They use a Scope app, go out in the field, they use and gather that information. And that also works offline because, of course, there's no internet everywhere. But as soon as they come somewhere where there is internet, they can upload that into our system, and then we can analyze that. And after analyzing it, we can portray that back to our client in our business intelligence platform. So it is using this data, and this is all for that first pillar that I was talking about, all that graduation system. And now the access to finance. What we have seen using all the data, because we have done over 5,000, almost 5,500 assessments to date. So we have gathered a lot of data. And what does this data tell us? This data informs us that the top 3 things that agribusinesses help get finance is their link to the market, financial management, and a strong internal management. So that strengthens our belief that it is so important to first work on the business itself and only then add technology and add other programs that focus on youth and gender. So it's really strengthening that business, and then all those other projects and programs fall on fertile ground. Well, what are our goals, and how does that data then use? Because the data, what I all told you now, is about professionalizing the agribusinesses. If we all collectively do that well, it really brings down the risk for the lenders. So that is first and foremost what we need to do, because the lenders often tell us these businesses are not ready to receive a loan. So that means that we have to do that homework first. But just for argument's sake, say that we've done this, say that we have helped these organizations get a track record, a digital profile. Then together with AGRA and CFI, that was already mentioned in the kind introduction, we developed bankability metrics. These bankability metrics are sort of like an Excel sheet, an empty Excel sheet with formula or with fields that are a sort of format in which lenders can review. So, and that's what we can do. And we intend to build that out at scale so that we can channel that data that is collected in that first process of professionalizing the agribusinesses, share that data, the track record, with the lenders. So if we do that, that's the same data, but it does show, and it does, so we don't need to collect it again, but that data can be used for those lenders to see if they want to finance these organizations or not, or if they're not ready yet. If this all works, and if we all pitch in and do this and contribute to this ecosystem, this approach, this joint connected approach, not fragmented, but really jointly do this, then we believe that advancing professionalism of these agribusinesses can lead to all these benefits for these stakeholders, right? And let me just point out for the financial institutions, they have a broader perspective of risk. They get a better insight in these agribusinesses. And we've already gotten this feedback from them. They say, okay, with this information, I get now a better view of what the risks are of that organization. So they can make better informed decisions. Their due diligence costs go down. And because their due diligence costs go down, they can provide more loans and provide maybe loans that are, smaller in size. And of course, the national governments, I think they also have a national database. They can get a national database and to see what's happening in their country, and to see that if an NGO comes there with a program, they can ask them, please go in the northern or the southern region where it is most needed. And so they're connecting all these dots between all these stakeholders, I think will also very much increase that access to finance and access to business in general for these more professional organizations. Let me stop there. So thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any questions, please do share on the chat, or maybe reach out to me also after the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maris. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think the conversation is getting more and more interesting. When I said that Ken has given us the whole summary and they will just try to plug and unpack, I was not wrong. You recall that Ken talked about the digital inside and talking about the inward looking first. Before the out one, and that is when he talked about the digital inside before the digital partnership and implementation. And yes, I agree with you that, and I usually say that the success of any enterprise, cooperative included, starts and finishes with professionalism. And to get the market access or finance, like you rightly said it, Maris, first is the professionalism which will dictate the rest. And I agree with you that we have been talking about limited access to finance in Africa, like we had also Ken alluding to the same. And you have given us an answer saying that if you need money, be bankable. And to be bankable, it means for us we have to be professional. The conversation is still on the finances. Please continue chatting. I would like now to bring the new dynamism, a new variable. We have talked about finance. Maybe we should also hear a bit about markets. We have heard about finance. We have also heard about professionalism, but that is the organization itself. And let's hear a bit on the market issues as well, and then have a picture from the same. And I think this will come from Janet, our next speaker, Janet Kalulu Ngobalu, who is a socio-economic professional and a marketing communication specialist. Janet has been working in rural and urban development in various organizations in Eastern Africa region. Janet works as marketing, information, and communication manager at Eastern African Grain Council, and which encompasses or serving rather Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, Malawi, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Burundi. Previously, she was the partnership and communication manager at the Kenya National Federation of Agricultural Producers. Janet has 10 years experience, having completely worked in a managerial position for 8 years in communication, rural and urban development, agriculture and trade programs, human rights programs, water, waste, and environmental sanitation, and climate change. Janet also worked with Practical Action, one of the leading international NGOs in development issues. She is assessed on the proven ability of food security and socioeconomic development, agricultural development, strategic planning, public health, communication for development, program development and management, monitoring and evaluation, documentation and reporting. So please allow me to welcome Janet. Janet, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Sifa. Thank you, our other speakers from Scope Insight, Ken, Luheto. I think we've worked a lot for the last many years on the digital space. My colleagues from the East Africa Grain Council who are here, and colleagues also from the African Food Fellowship who are also with us, whose ideas have also contributed to this presentation. So in a nutshell, I'll be speaking into the market access on digital transformation, looking at some of the things that we've done to support market access. And we're saying the digital transformation space is changing for markets across Africa and across the region. We've seen businesses that are changing the way they are doing business, new business models that are starting in place. We've seen the technology that is changing both internally and externally. And also we're providing faster access to information, which is affecting how we interact with each other within the market force. And also market forecasts for the next decade suggest that there's gonna be a digital agricultural revolution. So we are setting the pace and also supporting ourselves in that. We've seen the trends in digital market access for cooperatives over the years. If we look at this chart across here, we've seen the digital penetration in most of the countries in Africa. And we are seeing Kenya is on the rise with about 85.2% digital penetration. And I think Ken also brought out some of that in the work they've been doing also in the digital space in most of the African countries. We are seeing an increase in mobile phone penetration, like I said. We are seeing increased Uberization. My colleague called it, the Uber technology in food deliveries that is coming in. and the various others that are also around that for food deliveries, for agricultural input, whatever you need. We are seeing a lot of those, whether it's on vehicles or borders. There is a big revolution that we need to access for the cooperatives. We've seen an increase in digital finance and agribusiness models, a lot of growth in the digital finance space in Eastern Africa. We've seen the growth of new models, very many agribusiness models that are coming up to support the farmers and the other stakeholders. Then a lot of increase in technology and innovations in the digital space, increased rural-urban migration, which is bringing various dynamics in the digital space. We've seen the increased supermarkets for fresh foods, and supermarkets in this way doesn't mean just the Carrefour or the Naivas, but the bigger and even smaller supermarkets that are coming up, the quick marts. There's a lot of access to finance that is penetrating. There's high digital penetration and increased use of data, like has been said earlier, and the agri-innovations in terms of the artificial intelligence, the big data, and the Internet of Things. So all these are the trends that we have to leverage within the cooperatives and access to markets. So what are we seeing as some of the drivers of digital market access, and how can we as cooperatives take that up? And the drivers and the trends have also been in tandem. We have the digital informations that are transforming market access. We have the key driver about understanding the market that you're dealing with. Are you dealing with a regional market? Are you dealing with a local market? We've heard about the professionalism. What is the professional that you're bringing within the agribusiness space? And this, for us, we are talking about cooperatives. How are we going to make the cooperative space be more professional so that we are changing the cooperatives to be very professional business-wise? They can look at various customers and develop specified digital solutions. We've seen the COVID-19, as Ken said earlier, that is a big driver for the need for increase in leveraging digitization, increased trends in online markets. In Kenya, we are seeing the likes of Twiga Foods in Kenya, the Glovo, the Jumia Foods, and various online deliveries. In my WhatsApp group, in my WhatsApp alone, I have several businesses who are doing marketing of their produce on WhatsApp, and we are able to order and they deliver to you at your doorstep. They may not be registered at the moment, but they are using the WhatsApp for business to do a lot of those. We've seen emerging markets like collateralization of commodity, like what we are doing with the warehouse receipt system, which has been digitalized, and also opportunities for cooperatives in agriculture marketing. So for us in the space, we started from the Eastern Africa Grain Council working on the digital system almost 10 years back. And we've developed several tools that can help us move along the way. We have what we call the Regional Agricultural Trade Intelligence Network. This is a market information system known as RATIN that we are able to do on a daily basis, collect market information from across 8 countries in the region and around 42 markets. And from this, on a daily basis, we know the price of maize, we know the price of sorghum, we know the price of rice, various products of rice, millet, cowpeas, green peas, green gram. You can be able to access that at the region. And this information is therefore available to the farmers or the traders or the processors that we work with. Because in this, for EAGC, we are a membership organization of the grain value chain actors, whether they're farmers, the traders, and the processors. So we have the market for who are the traders who are able to buy from the farmers, and we have the processors in the same platform who again provide the market for them. for the farmers, and then we link them the two. So once we get these prices, whether it's, we have different currencies for various countries, they're able to access these messages through their farmer groups, through what would be the cooperatives in this sense. For us in the council, we call them grain trade business hubs, where they come together and to address the issues of literacy and challenges, because their numbers, they can be able to read. But we also bring in some of the early readers, or who are able to read for the others. And some of the information that goes on a small SMS is translated in Kiswahili, into Luganda, into local languages, so they can be able to understand. So once they know the prices, they also know the regional data that is available, because we also do cross-border trade, what is required by a trader in Kenya, maybe from Uganda, and we're able to link that. What is required maybe because Kenya is a net buyer, so most of the commodity comes to Kenya, but then we have the cooperatives in Tanzania, in Uganda, who are then able to aggregate that commodity, and we use the rating information to advise them on pricing, advise them on current trends of prices, and they're able to do that for market information. So for more information, you can access the Ratin website, interact with it as much as possible, check out the prices. And we also then do training for farmer groups, for cooperatives on how to engage with it and use the data over time. But also with time, because we've collected this information over time, we are able to analyze and have trends which we advise the governments. And also, as we go on, I'll be showing you on the warehouse receipt system, because the financial institutions need that kind of historical data to be able to collateralize the maize that is in the warehouses. We need to value it, and we need to know how much it costs. So with the banks and the financial institutions that we are working with, we are able to use that kind of information to assess the value. So we have warehouses. These are warehouses across the region that then that the farmers are able to bring their maize collectively, aggregate their commodities. Then if they want to sell at that particular time, we link them to a buyer in any part of the region. And if they're not able, they want to store it under the warehouse receipt system, they store in a certified warehouse. And then with this warehouse, we link them to the financial institution, who are able then to use that information to collateralize, advance loans to the farmers, and they're able to use that. So we also have then from the Ratin grain trade platform that we developed, because one of the issues was that, yes, we've done our commodity, we've done the warehousing, and what next? So through the GSOCO grain trade, the trade platform, we are able to do online linkages. The farmers are able to bid, or the traders, and the buyers are also able to bid. And because we have certified warehouses across the region, we are able also to confirm that the grain is available at what grade, because grading and standardization is very important if you're going to do online marketing, because for once the trader is not, there's not that physical touch. So what we guarantee and how we support that is that through the warehouses, because the warehouse has been certified, we're able to know what grade of maize they have, what grade of beans we have, and we have our officers who can go and verify. So that when you're in maybe in Uganda, and the buyer is in Kenya, then you can guarantee the quality. And because we've harmonized the standards across the region, we are able to standardize that. Then from that, we have various commodities, the wheat, the dry maize. There are various inspection processes that we do. There's an application process for the buyer, and there's an application for the trader. We are able to do trade catalogs every Thursday from the 10 countries. We compile a trade catalog where we have bids for sale, in what commodity, what quantities, where it is at, and which farmers. We have a list then of the farmers who have aggregated to get that commodity. So for us in the cooperative sector space, this is one of the ways we are leveraging and supporting in market access. We also have another system, a digital system, the climate information for grain, because what we are saying is that climate change or climate information has been affecting the way we are doing trade or how we are factoring commodities, so that by the time we get a contract from a buyer, maybe for the next season, we want to be able to know that we are likely to meet the commodity for the contracting. So we've also been doing weather forecasts and advisories for the farmers to be able to access that. And the farmers can be able to access the tool. These are training sessions that we hold. I know we were talking about literacy and illiteracy around that, but how we mitigate that is that there's always the younger people in the group or learned people in the group. And moving forward, we've seen a lot of embracing of these new technologies, even from the older folks. So the balancing on all that is what we're leveraging to be able to do these digital systems over time. Then we have from the GSOC platform, we have a linkage to the Grain Trade Business Hub. Like I said, the Grain Trade Business Hub is the core of our farmer interventions at TAGC. So each farmer is linked to a grain trade business hub. And this is where the farmers come together and we are able to do various services with them. We started this process with CTA some time back. So from that, we are able to do a profiling, digital profiling process where we know where the farmer is, what they're producing, how much quantities they produced last year. And so with that kind of data, we are able then to even advise and support them in acquiring other services. And those services include input, because now you know maybe the farmers in a particular village and they'll be planting, depending on the planting season, they require a certain kind of seeds. Then we aggregate the seed and we work with the seed input suppliers through a digital gain system that we have developed internally, and we are able to get the quantities to them. And then we organize their payments because the farmers then pay us through AGC, through a settlement account that we have with the finances, with the financial institutions, and then they're able to be advanced the seed or the input, whatever they require. And then once they are paying back, we are able to support them on that. We also do that about leasing equipment, the storage process, capacity building, linking them to finance, and also then linking them to market. So within the G Hub, once they have aggregated, they have produced, they have the commodity, it's in their stores, they don't have to be very complicated stores, but they've been certified in a way that they can keep the grain and maintain the quality that is required by the market. And that's when we link them to the GSOC system, where we do the settlement, and the warehousing, the clearing and settlement in the account. We have the takers and the buyers who are in the system. They buy from the G Hubs, and then then they pay EAGC, and then EAGC pays back the farmer. So it's a whole loop, ensuring there's trust among the farmers, there's trust among the buyers, there's trust among the off-takers. So these are some of the things we could leverage for all the cooperatives that we are working with. So some of the digital solution providers we've seen in the market, depending on the the kind of information that's required, whether it's the quality, the quantity, the transportation cost, the traceability of commodity. We have what we have as RATIN, as EAGC, the GSOC system, but there are also other systems like ePro that's supporting on the production side. We have FarmForce, another digital system. We have the Trigger Foods that also buy. We have the warehouse receipt system, the e-warehouse receipt, where now we are also certifying in partnership with the NCPB here in Kenya, and also other organizations in other countries that we are working with. We have the RFID tool for the livestock. We have the C4IG. So there are quite a number. The thing is, for the cooperatives, we agree on what we want and we can work together to access that. In terms of some of the digital tools that then we use for dissemination, we have the SMS platform that is supported by EAGC. We have e-certificates, e-warehouses as to certify the commodities. We have the various websites that are available. We have the digital and TV platform that, again, that we use for dissemination. We have the WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups that have become very good market linkages. The mobile applications, the Taxifys, the Ubers that are available again. We have the smartphone on the Ratin app that is accessible on, and it's an open platform that can be downloaded from Play Store and used by the farmers. We have digital weighing scales, especially for us where a farmer has to bring like 2 bags, another farmer bring 10 bags, another farmer in the aggregation process. So we have found that the digital weighing scales are very good because they give an immediate receipt for the farmer to support on how much they have brought and how much they are owed within the warehouses, the electronic dashboards, the smart camera and smart meters. So these are some of the things we can use. Some of the challenges is, like I said, grading and standards may not be harmonized, and for trade to happen, we need to be very clear on the standard. Grade 1 in Kenya is grade 2 in Uganda, is the same grade in Uganda, is the same grade in Eldoret or in Mombasa. So that standardization and grading of the commodity is very key. The mistrust among buyers and sellers who haven't met over time, they only have met through an online platform that takes time over time, but we've seen a lot of response and better as we see the e-market business growing over time. The transaction cost, the settlement of payment, how sure are you're going to be paid upfront after the goods are delivered. So that's also a process of settlement, which we are working with banks, financial institutions to be able to settle that and guarantee payment, limited access to reliable data, and of course, there are some slow and late adopters in the agriculture sector. So why should farmers or cooperatives work on the digital markets? Through digital systems, they're able to work in a more structured and professional market system. They are able to improve access to markets through the collective marketing, and they're able to access larger markets. The cooperatives are also able to improve intervention in facilitating the smallholder cooperatives, reducing the cost on intermarket commerce, again, through the digital system, improved access to technologies, markets information and services such as financial access, market information, warehouse facilities, bulking in central places, and also how we can increase commercialization, and also some of the agribusiness model opportunities. What's our way forward and our partnership with ICA is we will continue to do capacity building on the various digital models that we have already developed, and also see how we can improve for specific commodity cooperatives, and also on structured trade, linking to the market access digital systems that are available, not just with the EAGC, but with the rest of our partners. Collaborate to scale and expand the G-Hub, where we have the Grain Trade Business Hub for the farmer groups and linkage for real-time data. So thank you very much, Dr. Sifa. Over to you, Dr. Sifa.
Sorry,
Not yet?
can you hear me now?
Yes, that's better. We lost you again.
still breaking. It's breaking, Doctor.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Naturally.
Okay, better. Yeah.
Is it better now?
Yeah, it's okay now.
Yeah, thank you very much, Janet. I think I was very much impressed by the presentation. And it tallies very well with the earlier presentations, as you have touched on the issue of internal issues, professionalism, by making sure that the farmers first they know about the weather, they can produce good and good grains. They can also store it in good to preserve the quality, and you are able then to link them up with the market, but also to access market the finances by the use of the warehouse receipt system. So basically, you have tried to touch on all the three problems or the three success factors we have so far talked about in terms of agricultural cooperatives, and the great job that the ESGC is doing, and the possible areas of collaboration in terms of ICA amplifying the voice and the works of EAGC across the whole of Africa, not only the East African countries. So thank you once again. I hope you are keeping an eye on the questions on the chat box, so that you can see some questions and respond to it directly. I think because of time, I will now move to the next presenter, who now is talking experience from the ICA cooperative members. So here we'll hear now more about the case study for China, cooperatives in China, what they have done vis-a-vis access to finance, to the market, but also professionalism. And with that, Ms. Li Tung, who is the Deputy Director for International Cooperative Department at ACF SMC. She worked in FCC for more than 2 decades, that is more than 20 years. She holds a master's degree, and she's a long-term cooperator with rich experience in cooperative movement. She will give us the example of China, and see how we can borrow a leaf to try and amplify the already some of the homegrown solutions which ESCGC is already doing for Africa, and how our agricultural cooperatives then in Africa can embrace and scale up these innovations. So, Ms. Liu, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. It's okay? Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, good afternoon and good evening to you all. I'm Liu Ting from China Coop. I'm very pleased to attend this online webinar and meet cooperative friends, old and new. During the pandemic, agriculture cooperatives and hit hard and now in the process of recovering. Therefore, the webinar today is highly relevant by bringing government officials, cooperative leaders, and other stakeholders together to discussion how to leverage digital technologies to help agriculture cooperative to weather through the crisis. My presentation today includes three parts. First, an overview of all China Federation of Supply and Marketing Cooperatives. Second, our practice in digital technologies. Third, looking into the future, how ACF SMC plans to grasp digital opportunities to empower cooperatives. The first part, ACF SMC was established in 1954 and is the apex body of supply and marketing cooperatives in China. It includes administrative office, China Coop Group, institutes, and associations. ACF-SMC is committed to the development of the 4 networks, including distribution of agriculture imports, agricultural products, consumer goods, and renewable resources recycling. On the other side, you may have a glimpse of our office building, and from the picture, is located in the center of Beijing, maybe near the famous Tiananmen Square, only one kilometer. So welcome, if you have the chance, welcome to China, welcome to Beijing, and visit our office building. Vertically, ACF-SMC forms a 5-tier system. We now have 32 provincial COOPs, 344 prefecture level COOPs, 2,420 county level federations, and 37,652 primary COOPs. These are the whole structure. In the last year, ACF-SMC has achieved an aggregate turnover of more than 820 billion US dollar, and profit exceeding 8 billion US dollars, which increases of over 40% and 11% respectively. Move on to the main part. ACF-SMC has always attached great importance to digital technologies and hope to make full use of it to transform cooperatives in the digital age. First, e-commerce. E-commerce development shows 2 features: rapid development, up to date. We have 3,500 COOP enterprises involved in e-commerce business. 21,000 registers e-shops, 1,600 e-commerce business entity, 1,300 have built their own online platforms. Second, focus on agricultural produce. Most of the e-commerce COOP enterprises choose agricultural produce as their main business area, such as fruits, rice, garlic, nuts, mushrooms, harness, and others. You can see from the picture. Our first nationwide online platform was established in September 2015. In May 2015, China COOP had launched the China e-commerce COOP company, and the online mall started its online trial in September. This is a section of consumer goods. Some of the products come from agricultural cooperatives. This is the section of agricultural means of production. Agricultural cooperatives can order fertilizers, seeds, agricultural machines, and other commercial services. It's very convenient for them to get what they need, even at home. Another online platform is 832 platform. Is a B2B platform. It was established by China COOP Electronic Commerce Company Limited, affiliated to China COOP Group. The original purpose is for poverty alleviation. It also facilitates COOP trade, exhibition, online transaction, logistics, tracking, online payment, products, traceability of agri and byproducts can all be made on its platform. At present, it has covered 22 provinces and worked with over 2,000 cooperatives. For cooperatives, the digital year presents golden opportunities to develop e-commerce, such as favorable policy support, rich offline resources, and favorable social contactors. Example, easy access to cell phone and internet. And now I want to think that in recent years, the Chinese government support lots of the fund to build the infrastructure and to improve the farmers is easy to access to cell phone and internet. But it also brings challenges such as its impact on traditional model, fairs, competitions, and short of the personnel technology infrastructure. I think maybe is a common for every country and for our cooperatives. Apart from developing e-commerce, live streaming is also an important channel for us to have agricultural cooperatives. Live streaming is very popular in China now and grows to be an important way to selling products. Agricultural cooperatives are also making full use of this to make their products during the pandemic. The following two pictures shows exploring practical products through living stream and apps. Now the living stream is very popular in China, and through this the living streaming, the cooperative can sell their products through the app, and it's very popular in China. Last is the online supply and marketing platform. Hebei province Coop joined hands with Alibaba, that is very famous, and plans to put in place 3 digital platforms serving agricultural production and farmers live. Platform of smart logistics, digitalization of the asset and the resources platform. The aim to establish smart supply and marketing centers and improve digital service of primary networks. Heilongjiang Provincial Coop is another cooperative is the provincial level, has established the Longjiang Rural Platform. Agricultural cooperatives can close follow market prices of agricultural produce, land trust and transfer information, other fertilizers, seeds and pesticides, and even listen to online lectures. Look into the future, we plan to build digital supply and marketing cooperative, inject vitality into rural vitalization in line with the 14th five-year plan of China. ACF, SMC, drafted its all 5-year plan in which digitalization is an important part. Ningxia Provincial Coop is a pilot area for digital supply and marketing cooperatives. ACF, SMC will also push forward, such as digital coop business, digital wholesale market, smart cold chain logistics, smart database. Maybe in the 5 years plan, we will could maybe give this the four aspects. That's all. Thank you very much for your attention. That's all of my presentation. If you any question, you can feel free to contact us at any time. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can you hear me, please?
Yeah, hi.
Yes, thank you, Liu. And once again,
Yeah.
thank you. Unfortunately, you did not project the video to show exactly how we have been delivering that delivery system you have for the rural areas, which could also work very well in Africa. Maybe next time, and people, if you can also send that video, we'll put it on our website and people can still watch it at their own time. It is quite very illustrative and very informative as well. You'll agree with me that indeed the early birds eat the fat worms. Our friend in China already in 2015 thought that the digital platform was the way to go. And already 6 years back, they had their e-commerce, but also their e-mall. And that is the one I was alluding to, how they go and distribute the groceries to homes, to the homes. There is something which strike me. They are talking about a turnover of 820 billion US dollars between 2012 and 2020. So definitely this was just, they started this 3 years before they launched their e-commerce. So definitely e-commerce has contributed greatly into this turnover of 820 billion. We have seen that. I wanted to make these connections, how tapping into the digital platforms for the African agricultural cooperatives can also enhance and improve our income levels for our agricultural cooperative, but also our households. So once again, thank you, Lee. And if you have got questions, please put them directly to her. And Lee, please keep on reading the chat box. Because of time, I will not go through them and direct them to you. I would like now to move to the last presenter on this panel on the issue of finance and marketing, and also internal organization or professionalism of organization, especially agricultural cooperatives, in being the prerequisites in making sure that they can reap the benefits of the digital platforms. So please, I would like to present to you Mrs. Sylvia Ngeno. She's a director of program management at Farm Beta. She's a social change maker, constantly seeking new and innovative approaches to effective social changes and improve farmers, including youth livelihoods across Africa. She has pioneered farmer-facing and youth-led work for benefiting over 600,000 smallholders and their families, members of over 1,000 youth for the past 10 years, and launched farmer service delivery models and youth innovation hubs in Eastern Africa, providing farmers and youth with access to support services, including training, financing, that is via novel rotating credit fund financed by smallholders and cooperatives that she had a vision for, and the market and information. So without further ado, please allow me to welcome Sylvia. Sylvia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sifa. It's been a very insightful and informative session so far. And I'm very pleased to for this opportunity, and thank you so much, to speak about two topics and a population that I hold really dear to my heart: youth, innovation, and agriculture. I'm really specifically passionate about youth innovation in agriculture, as I look at it from that perspective of creating attractive job and employment opportunities in agriculture for the current and the future generations of youth. So, and therefore we are able to then secure the future of food. Currently, we are 7.7 billion people on this planet, and it's still increasing rapidly, even with the current COVID-19 pandemic that is ravaging the globe. This is mainly due to the fact that we now have, or increasingly have, better access to healthcare and even better nutrition opportunities. And if you take a look at that 7.7 billion population, you find that about 18% are youth of between the ages of 15 to 24 years. So you're talking about 1 billion youth globally, possibly coming into the job market over the next 10 years. So this is our opportunity to offer agriculture as a viable job and employment venture, and then to build that next generation of farmers with introducing innovative farming practices and using technology for efficient production and management. You want to look at agribusiness or farming as a business, but as you know, with any business venture, there is that need for, you put certain inputs or service or product at a cost, and then you possibly multiply it or increase it, and you result in a profit. So this particular image or slide provides some primary agricultural services or products that, for example, a commercial farmer would need. For instance, they would need extension services for technical advice on pest management or crop management during the season. They would require farm inputs in form of seed, fertilizer, or mechanization. They would need some information on market trends, current prices on the market, location of markets. They would definitely need some finance, either as capital to start the venture or as cash flow during the season. Aggregation, particularly for smallholders, where selling as a group, they can get a better buying price, or they can aggregate and purchase inputs at a reduced cost. And even the use of technology, for example, drone services for crop spraying or tracking pests and diseases on the farm. So you look at these services and products as a market space, yeah, with the products and services as possible value chain. And then you would want to consider which point or points of the value chain you or a young person or a young people can position themselves as a supplier or a service provider. But before we actually delve into that bit, let's take a look at the profile of youth currently in this in the agriculture sector now. So you find that, and we all know that youth migration from rural to urban areas is really mainly driven by youth leaving to look for higher education and better employment opportunities. And most times you find that the youth succeed in obtaining world-class education in the urban areas. And right now, with fewer employment opportunities, they're not able to land that dream job or employment opportunity that they had hoped for. And then now, because they're in an urban area, there's that high cost of living. And so the youth is then forced to take the decision to either return back home to the rural area, which is probably their hometown or their village. So we are then now seeing local farming communities in the rural areas thriving with digitally savvy, educated, sometimes to degree to master's level holders who are very smart, well networked because they have access and knowledge of mass media and electronic communication tools. They have mobile phones, computers, there are mobile applications that are connecting them. We have YouTube channels, Facebook, WhatsApp, TikTok. There's a whole manner of an electronic communication tools available to them. So if we go back to that market space and look at the value chain that they could possibly, this youth can possibly provide or create a value proposition, we then could explore some and consider some of the points. Such an educated, smart, and networked and digitally savvy youth can provide value and then get a financial return or income through that value provision. So for example, if you use extension as an example, the youth can position themselves as an agri-tourist. So they can organize for exchange visits or organize for training sessions online or in person. For farm inputs, they can offer the labor because they have the energy. They can go and actually do pruning and the more labor intensive work, or they can use machines and be able to provide that service. They can aggregate information on market prices, market locations, and provide that digitally, or provide that in person. Or as an aggregation, as an example, they can provide the logistics from taking the produce from the farmer to the market, or taking the farm inputs from the agro dealer to the farmer. Or they can promote digital tools. So all the digital tools we've heard about today, they can take the position of providing the knowledge and the know-how and bridging that gap of that digital gap between the farmer and the digital tool. So essentially, I want to provide an example of a youth engagement strategy with the knowledge that I just shared before of a value proposition and an agriculture market space. Back in 2015, I pioneered a pilot program or a pilot project or a youth engagement concept. We were calling it the Youth Innovation Hub, which certainly looked at answering the question, how can we engage youth in agriculture without them really doing the actual farming? The pilot looked at setting up 3 youth-led initiatives in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania in partnership with tea and coffee cooperatives in these countries. The Youth Innovation Hub provided a platform for that youth-to-youth or peer-to-peer exchange through monthly meetings where the youth would come together, share, have a topic, have an agenda, and share amongst each other. And we also had in-country and inter-country exchanges. So youth from Kenya going to Uganda and youth from Uganda going to Kenya and vice versa, and learning about agriculture and youth in those countries. And then we had a mentorship program with the cooperative leaders and lead farmers so that youth can be able to participate in the cooperative and also participate in learning about agriculture through farmers who are seen as advanced or who have been in agriculture for a while. So through this process and through this interaction and through this engagement, the youth were then able to identify specific gaps, or you can call them opportunities, in the agriculture market space in their community that they could provide, or they could look at giving a service or having a product and earning an income as a result. So one of the hubs is Kayonza Youth Innovation Hub. So we partnered with a tea factory called Kayonza Growers Tea Factory, a small older farmer-owned cooperative in Western Uganda. There are about 7,000 members or more. Through the cooperative's leadership and working with the cooperative, they supported us in identifying 2 youth leaders within the community. And then these youth leaders founded the Youth Innovation Hub back in 2016. So Kenneth Agaba and Caroline Kansime are one of the most inspiring and visionary youth that I have met. And I'm very proud of how far they have come since 2016 and how they've mobilized their peers in the community. Together at the Kayonza Youth Innovation Hub, they transformed this concept that we had back in 2015 into now a youth-led for-profit social enterprise. And that was through the leadership of Kenneth and Caroline. Just starting the 2 of them and now going through the program, they now mobilized more youth, about 600 more of them, to form a membership social enterprise that offers specific services, both for the youth and also for farmers. For youth, so that they can continue increasing and create a movement, and for farmers, so that they can also earn an income. So they offer trainings for youth. They have a mentor-mentee matching program. They also organize in-person farm demonstration trainings, where a farmer demonstrates to other farmers and also demonstrates to youth about agribusiness and agriculture enterprises that they can be interested in venturing into. They also have women-led activities that focus on weaving, tapestry, even health education for young girls. They organize agriculture tours to inspire youth to engage in agriculture activities, not only in Uganda, but also outside when COVID-19 was not an issue. They have also gone into value addition, also agricultural value addition products, where they source raw materials for their products from their youth network and also from the local farming community, particularly their wine and honey products. So while the tea, they continue sourcing from the factory or the tea cooperative that mentored them. So this has been a really good example of where you have a concept that meets the needs of youth, and the youth take it up and turn it into a movement. Other projects that have leveraged on youth innovation in agriculture, of course, is Farm Better, where I'm currently working. It's a startup company, and Farm Better, we offer a digital advisory tool for farmers. And we're looking at building a network of digipreneurs, which is a partnership with youth so that you bridge the digital literacy gap in rural farming communities by providing access to tailored best farming practices and essentially build the resilience and improve the livelihoods of farmers. Then also Producers Direct, which is where the Youth Innovation Hub concept was piloted. And Producers Direct continues to promote youth engagement strategies with their Youth Direct project. And finally, the United Nations World Food Program is also they have an inspiring program under the Farm to Market Alliance project that promotes agripreneurship. And it's very attractive to youth because they partner with private sector partners within Kenya, and the youth provide products and services that are tailored to the needs of farmers, and they earn an income as a result. In summary, my recommendations would under the topic of youth innovation in agriculture is that we need to continue and increase the investment and to developing diverse youth engagement strategies, because there is no one size fit all in terms of engaging youth. Let's continue with partnerships and cooperatives for mentorship, and also building the credibility of youth, because a youth going by himself into a farming community may not be as impactful as a youth coming in partnership with a cooperative. And also promoting and also leveraging farming technologies that continue coming up every day and techniques, so that we can continue making agribusiness attractive and also viable business venture for farmers and also for young people. I'd like to end here and thank you so much for listening to me. Do not hesitate to get in touch with me. I'm happy to respond to questions and also comments.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mrs. Ngeno. And I would like especially to thank you because you have addressed one of the issues which was highlighted in this forum, which was the high illiteracy rate in Africa. And your presentation allude to or point to one of the solutions with the assumption that the youngsters are studying, so they are more literate than the old folks, and hence they can bridge that illiteracy gap, and especially in the rural. So let's encourage our youth and make sure that they are going to school indeed, and they're also digital. They are digitally enabled, so they are knowledgeable, and they can be able to bridge that gap that we had alluded to. Please, I would like to ask all the presenters to please check the chat box and respond to the questions. We have had quite a number of them. This brings us to the end of session 2. Time is not on our side. We are already 20 minutes late, I might say. We might not have the luxury of time to again go to the round of asking for questions because the engagement was on the chats. But from the 5 presenters, if you have any burning issue which you'd like to share now, we only have 2 minutes for all of you. So please, for all the presenters that we have had on stage, that is on panel 2, I would like to request you to make maybe a comment or a response to something you felt like you could not respond on the chats. And this goes to Niti, Maris, Janet, Louis, and Sylvia, a high-powered women-led panel, please. Any of you, if you have any strong message, parting shot you lack at this juncture, you only have 2 minutes, which could not be shared on the or responded to on the chat. So the floor is open in that order, please. You could as well also pass it if there is nothing you'd like to add from your presentation, from the discussion on this panel, and also from the chat box. Seems to be none. So can we then sorry, I can see none of you want to make a comment. Can we then pass to session 3? And please keep on keep the conversation going on the chat box, please. I would like now to move to session 3. Here we are talking more about the innovative digital solutions, and we'll have 2 presenters, one from IFAD and one from ICAO. I would like to first introduce to you the first presenter, who is Ms. Sarah Mbango Bunu. Ms. Mbango Bunu is the director of IFAD East and the Southern Africa Division. Her work experience spans for more than 20 years in agriculture, and mostly in Central, East, and Southern Africa. She has worked on agricultural policy and sector reviews, value chain development, access to agricultural finance, social enterprise models, and promotion of small and medium-sized enterprise in peri-urban and urban areas. She has also led and managed teams in development organizations in the design and development project and capacity building program. Prior to joining IFAD, Ms. Mbango Bunu worked at the World Bank as a senior agricultural economist for the Central African Republic, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and the Republic of Congo. She was based in Kinshasa. And from 2013 to 2016, she served as the country director for SNV, which is a is an NGO based in headquartered in Netherlands, and she was based in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Ms. Mbango Bunu holds a master's in business administration from Maastricht School of Management, that is in the Netherlands, and a BSc in agricultural economics from the University of Reading in the United Kingdom. I know she's a familiar face to the ICA family, but this particular topic has rose interest from other quarters. And please allow me to now welcome Ms. Sarah on the stage to share with us those innovative solutions, innovative digital solutions coming from IFAD. Ms. Sarah, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Madam Shifa, and greetings to the family of ISA. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for all of those of whom are connected. IFAD shares the values and ambitions and goals of this forum, and so that's why we remain engaged as core partners. Thank you for inviting me to speak at the International Cooperative Alliance webinar today. And my role is really talking about young women and men, especially young agripreneurs, rural youth, informal workers, and smallholder farmers. We're all particularly vulnerable to the impacts of the COVID pandemic, because we really want to focus on rebuilding and recovery and leaving no one behind as we do this. You know, COVID has disrupted agricultural value chains, exasperating existing challenges that farmers face when engaging in agri-food systems, notably limited access to productive resources, finance, and markets. COVID-19 has led to a reported reduction in market access and income, while also limiting access to inputs and work sites for many small-scale farmers, and even workers, farm workers and farm laborers. Farmers are losing the opportunity to earn income during the labor-intensive planting and harvesting periods, as these coincide with internal movement restrictions and lockdowns. It is also equally concerning that the majority of smallholder farmers have little or no access to social safety nets to cushion these negative impacts. As a result, the farmers have really had their livelihoods put on risk, and this should be an alert for all of us. Despite these negative impacts, some young entrepreneurs are finding innovative ways to adapt to the situation and build resilience, including one using digital solutions, moving to online marketing and sales platforms, for instance. It will be critical for governments and development partners to nurture and enable this innovation capacity and provide adequate response measures that are targeted to the real needs of farmers. Response measures should consist of tailored economic and fiscal stimulus packages, social protection measures, support with access to inputs, and support for improved post-harvest management. Because with disruption, you need to boost your ability to store your produce safely. IFAD's Rural Poor Stimulus Facility has allocated approximately $25.8 million to 37 African countries, focusing on providing this type of support. And each project includes 25% young women and men. So we really, on the onset, already set out to target young people. The potential for additional technology to support sustainable economic growth in agriculture in the African context is enormous. We are now probably harnessing just a small percentage of its capabilities. In agriculture and food sector, the spread of mobile technologies, remote sensing services, and distributed computing are already improving smallholder access to information, inputs, markets, finance, and training. Digital technologies are creating new opportunities to integrate small-scale farmers and digital-driven agri-food systems. The use of digital financial services, especially during COVID, has been on the rise, and there has actually been an active, effective way of promoting behavior change and introducing formally farmers who are not connected to these systems to adopt savings and other measures. Social media is also playing an increasing role in resource mobilization, knowledge exchange across African countries. For instance, in Lesotho, there's a Facebook group of about 250,000 active farmers and a younger farmer online group of 51,000 members. So the voice of smallholder farmers are really coming to the fore, including this forum, of course. I just want to take this final few minutes to go through a case study around in Zambia of how we've been able to deploy digital. So the Zambian government, together with IFAD Finance, are supporting a rural finance expansion program to try and change the narrative on access to by smallholder farmers to financial services. And we want to promote the use of sustainable financial services by poor rural men, women, and youth. Since its inception in 2014, it has now managed to reach approximately 1 million rural dwellers with financial products and services. This is quite a works with various microfinance institutions and offers financial services on a digital platform. Service users can transact business using electronic wallets, which allows them to withdraw money, receive and pay loans. Furthermore, service users also receive alerts on market opportunities and other information relevant to their businesses. These digital services are also available in remote areas due to wide mobile network coverage in the country of 91%. So Zambia has done well there. In regard to the role of digital finance in economic recovery, RUFEP is undertaking a socioeconomic analysis through the financial sector deepening of Zambia initiative to inform post-pandemic recovery policies in favor of small-scale farmers and other low-income groups. The central government has also developed a targeted medium-term refinancing facility with $550 million to support the recovery and resilience of the financial sector, which is very, very key. So far, the Bank of Zambia has approved $127 million in the recovery fund, 60% of which is allocated to microfinance institutions and SMEs, small and medium enterprises, were the backbone of food systems and provide essential services to small-scale farmers. With this very quick explanation, I would like just to end here and say digital financial tools can help create different channels for fundraising, expanding the online presence and visibility of small-scale farmers, provide them with different opportunities. So as long as we can ensure and promote a digital address, a digital footprint, this opens up numerous doors and opportunities for the farmers we serve. I want to pass the floor back to Madame Sifa. I know you were very strict with time and you wanted just a flavor of what we have managed to do. So back to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can you hear me, Sarah?
Yes, I can. Yes,
yeah,
I can.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. I would like at this juncture also to again acknowledge the support. This particular conference is co-sponsored by the ICA Africa, We Effect, IFAD, CCW, and African Prudential. So once again, thank you very much for IFAD for sponsoring this conference. And for all the activities that we are doing, especially the post-COVID or after this lockdown crisis, and the role that we are continuing during this trying crisis in ensuring that indeed our farmers do get access to financing, and not only any finance, but at least affordable and affordable financing. I would like also to mention here that you might have joined us a bit late. Maybe you did not. You're not in discussion when we had our background paper from FAO, and when we did discuss the issue of some of that indeed during this during this COVID time, our farmers have seen access. Their access to finance and market going down, and indeed all of us, we have to work toward enhance this idea of digital solutions, trying to scale up. We have also had quite a good examples coming from the session 2 on what can be done, and we are hoping that together with IFAD and other stakeholders here present, we could be able to fast track the e-commerce within AACO, that is the African Agricultural Cooperative Organization, which is an agricultural arm of the ICA Africa, and especially looking at the digital platform and markets, and why not scaling up and also what already the East African Green Council is already doing, but also adding up and bringing more dynamism and bringing it also across all the continent. So if you have got questions to address to Sarah, please feel free. You can chat in the box, and but we have also the second presenter to this session 2. After the second presenter, if you have questions which are still burning, please feel free to bring them forward, and Sarah plus our second presenter also could be able to respond to the question on this issue of digital innovation solutions. So let's me now welcome the second presenter to session 3. The second presenter is Mr. Hong Guanse. That he lead the team of international cooperative, international cooperation office at NACAF. NACAF is our member and the apex body for agricultural cooperatives in South Korea. He's also the Deputy Secretary General of ICAO. ICAO is the International Cooperative Alliance agricultural organization, and the secretariat is being manned at in South Korea by NACAF. Wansu has been working for cooperative movements for more than 25 years now, starting as a journalist of farmers' newspapers in Korea. He expanded his career into international relations since 2008. As a trainee, as a trained economist in the field of agricultural and the cooperative in Korea and the USA, he has served as an agricultural advisor to the ICA, that is our global office in Brussels, from 2001 to 2014, and has organized many capacity building programs for cooperators and government officers for the rural cooperative movement. And I'd like also here at this juncture to mention that NACAF will be our host for the Cooperative Congress, which will take place in December. So you are all welcome into Korea. Without further ado, I would like now to give the floor to Guansu. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Sifa. Good morning and good afternoon, fellow cooperators and the audience of the webinar. I hope you can hear me. Okay.
Yes,
I'm Kwang-Sok. Yeah, okay, good. I am Kwang-Sok Hong. As introduced, I'm working for the National Agricultural Cooperative Organization in Korea and also the International Cooperative Agriculture Organization of the ICA. It is my honor to join the webinar and share the digital innovation experience of Korea. Korea is my home country, and I'm based in Seoul, Korea now. Today's my presentation is the case of Korean agriculture as well as the agricultural cooperatives in Korea. My presentation is mainly about the production side, how the Korean agriculture applies the digital innovations recently. Okay. Digital innovation is also a very hot issue in Korea. Farmers have adopted a new technology step by step in the field many years ago. But after the fourth industrial revolution was announced at 2016 World Economic Forum, the Davos Forum, the digital innovation becomes the buzzword, and Korean agriculture has rapidly developed into digital smart agriculture, incorporating advanced digital technology. As you see that the automation, robots, self-driving machines, drones, sensors, IoT, big data, blockchain, many new words are very common in agricultural sector as well. Those technologies and machines are all available to agricultural sectors, but the problem is that our farmers are afford to utilize those things. I already heard that the African farmers also has many challenges to adapt the digital technologies for their farming and distribution because of the availability or sometimes lack of the technologies. Here is the two examples how we can adopt the technologies. One farmers can afford to buy a big autonomous tractors, but the other farmers only can afford to buy a small scale self-driving rice planters. But the problem is how and who can afford to this? Only the smallholders. We should think about how the smallholder farmers can afford to these new technologies. Those machines and technologies available, or the infrastructures for those machines and technologies available. That's the issues of the small-scale farmers in Korea, as well as, I guess, in Africa too. in Korea, we do not have large open fields to use the big tractors. So our technology mainly developed from the intensified agriculture, especially in the greenhouse technologies. So we have developed from very small scale to the very high cutting edge greenhouse technologies. But our farmers have challenges. Can we have those technologies? Or if those technologies are available, can we have money to afford to build those brand new technologies and facilities for their farms? This is the development process, how Korean farmers adapt their technologies to the newly developed digital innovations. In 1960s, they introduced the plastic vinyl houses just for heating. But in 2010, they introduced the cutting edge greenhouse technologies with a lot of computer systems and sensors and many new IoTs and technologies. But in between, we use the big greenhouse technologies just for the small scale farmers. The greenhouse tunnels are just ordinary tunnels, not very fancy, but it also has a quite good technologies compared to the green glass houses. It is a plastic tunnel greenhouses, but it has smartphone systems, computer systems, sensor systems, and IoT systems. It is a big investment, even though it is not a high-tech glass houses. It requires financing, training, and marketing. So farmers rely on a lot of these resources to the agriculture cooperatives. So recently, our federations launched the Smart Farm Assistance Program. The small-scale farmers, they cannot afford to hold smart factory-style greenhouses by themselves. So the federations prepare the whole supporting packages from the start to the end. It has 5 stages. The first stage is pre-operation. The federation provides trainings for the smart farming, so they can learn computers, also the whole technologies for the greenhouses and the drones and many other smart farming technologies. The second stage is a setup stage. It is a consultation and construction of entry-level smart farm. The Korean Federation has made its own entry-level smart factory-style vinyl house packages. It is a cheap and affordable for the small scale farmers, and also provide the financial support for this construction. Third stage is operation. We provide the smart farm applications and total farming information service, also providing inputs. These information systems connect to the NACF's marketing distribution channels, so the farmers grow their produce from the smart farms, and automatically they can sell their produce through the NACF's marketing channels. That's the the fourth stage, the post-harvest. So the smart farm connects the contract farming and the marketing through Hanaro Mart. It's the NACF's marketing channels. Also, it provides the consultation for the branding and many other marketing strategies. This is very important because the smart farms and digital farming requires a big investment, and it should be a big size, and it produces a huge amount of production. So without the post-harvest programs, the farmers has difficulties to make their investments profitable. The fifth stage is the ongoing services. We provide these smart farms be sustainable, not only for the financial ways, but also in the production ways. From our experience, I would like to make some suggestions to utilize the cooperative approach to make a digital adaptations. As from our experience, the digital farming, especially the digital innovation, requires a big investment. So the small-scale farmers has a difficulty to adopt the digital innovation technologies for their crops and the distributions. But from the changing world and challenges, if the farmers cannot adopt the new technologies for their production and distribution, they will be left behind from the market. So it is necessary for farmers, even the small-scale farmers, they should learn and adopt the digital technologies. As previous speakers mentioned, that the distribution channel is very important for the small-scale farmers with a very little resources, but also the production side, the digital innovation is very important for the farmers to get better terms for their markets and better productions. So I think the cooperative is a proper business model for the small-scale farmers to adopt the digital technology collectively with other fellow farmers. So for the cooperative enterprise should identify the crops and animals for the markets before how they establish the cooperative digital innovation programs, and they should have a training programs for their farmers. As the previous speakers mentioned, that the literacy and many other obstacles for the African farmers, but training is very important. It is the first step for the farmers to get a better production and better terms in the market. The third one is establishing the digital farming complex. The digital innovation requires a big scale. It is a small scale is also available in distributions with the added technologies, but in production levels, the size matters. So small scale farmers need to be a collective farming with this cooperative business models. As the last part is the marketing channels. The digital innovation productions produce a huge amount of crop productions and animal products with the economy of size. So it is necessary to have a proper marketing channels. If better is if they own their own brands. This is all I have today. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Once again, thank you for this insightful presentation, and especially for reminding us that you don't sell what you do not produce. Yeah, we have been we have been focusing much on market access, finance. For sure, we talked about professionalism, and which also touches on the internal factors of production, that is the organization or cooperative itself. But you bringing this new aspects of digital innovations in terms of smart farms, especially in terms of production, is very, very important and very insightful. Having these self-automated greenhouses and tractors, just to name a few. I know you did not, maybe because of time, you did not touch on the even the shops, these self-automated shops, which you have also. I've seen at least some in your at least vending machines and shops which are not manned by anybody, but at least which are fully automated. And I think as we are speaking, this is already the 21st century. So basically, as we struggle with the lower end digitization platforms in Africa, if we have to remain relevant and compete at the world stage, then we have also to embrace the digital farms. That is the one in terms of production and even the distribution. Like I've said, you already have those automated distribution channels as well. So thank you very much for bringing this, and especially for advocating that to be able to circumvent the issue of financing, we have just to rely on our the power of cooperatives, because it's only through the cooperative that we can be able, you have already done it through your federation, being able to access these digital platforms, high-end, cut-edge platforms for your small farmers through their cooperatives. So this is a very important for bringing that message again home. And I would like then to maybe bring to an end this session 3, which only had Sarah and Wang Sung. So if you have got any questions, please feel free to bring them forward. But I'd also like to give the floor for 1 or 2 minutes to Sarah and Wang. So if they have got anything they would like to add on their presentation based on the comment that they have received from the chat, please, this is the floor is yours. We are seeing a very nice link to the from IFAD, which has just been shared. So please, I would like to bring to your attention everybody to look at the chat box and keep on reading. I think there is nothing they would like to add at this juncture. I would like now to pass to our last but not least presenter, who will bring in the issue of policies. He's my colleague, Dr. Todor Ivanov, who is also the Secretary General of Eurocorps, the European Community of Consumer Cooperatives, one of the sponsors of this particular conference. He also doubles as Secretary General of Consumer Cooperatives Worldwide. Sorry, it is the Consumer Cooperative Worldwide which sponsored this particular conference. Maybe the European Community of Consumer Cooperative via the WCC, but The right wording will be that one of the co-sponsors is the Consumer Cooperative Worldwide, sorry. He leads the Secretariat's advocacy and representation activities toward the EU institution and continuously looks at creating conditions for added value to membership through meaningful inter-member collaboration. Now, Ivanov started his career in Central Cooperative Union, Bulgaria, where he worked in the International Affairs Department and Cooperative Policy Department. He holds a PhD in Organization and Management of Consumer Cooperatives and an MA in European Public Administration. So please, without further ado, I would like to leave the floor to Dr. Ivanov. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Good afternoon from the consumer cooperative movement, dear colleagues. Thank you very much, Dr. Sifa, for this warm introduction. It is a pleasure to be with you today. I'm just checking whether I have shared my screen with you successfully and whether we are in full screen mode. I trust we are. If we're not, just give me the sign. On behalf of Professor Petar Stefanov, President of Consumer Cooperatives Worldwide and CCU Bulgaria, I would like to extend our warmest greetings and to express our gratitude for the invitation and opportunity to contribute to the discussions of this regional webinar. Despite the pandemic's wide-reaching disruptions and turbulence, we are excited to have maintained our close relations through virtual events aimed at exploring joint action and common objectives. For the future, we must continue our fruitful cooperation, and in light of this, Professor Stefanov, as President of CCU Bulgaria, is looking forward to welcoming a delegation of ICA Africa, which was planned for 2020 on the occasion of the 130th anniversary of the Bulgarian co-op movement. The spirit of cooperation empowers us all, dear colleagues, and we must seek mutual collaboration for the good of our members, communities, and society in general. And today's theme of digital innovation and its role in building resilience for agricultural co-ops has far-reaching implications for the development of the cooperative business model and our collaboration. My presentation today is structured in three main parts. Firstly, an introduction of our organization and what consumer co-ops are. Secondly, our understanding of digital agriculture and the various prospects and challenges we have identified therein. And thirdly, key recommendations for overcoming the barriers and maximizing the potential of our intercooperation. Being the last speaker at events always has its pros and cons. I mean, we saw the agenda here today. I have my own session. I'm the only one, so that's great. Now, the bad thing is that, well, not the bad thing. I mean, actually, the good thing is that all the technical presentations we saw were very insightful, very fruitful. A lot of technical information was laid out for us, which is great. So in a way, I cannot compare to that, but also my function today is not to really compete with that technical information because, as I said, I do represent consumer cooperatives, not agri-co-ops. But we see a link, and CCW and ICA Africa have established very warm relations the past couple of years and are constantly looking to see how we can support consumer co-ops and agri-co-ops in Africa. So, some brief facts about our organization. Well, we are the global sector of the International Cooperative Alliance for Consumer Co-ops, uniting 27 national organizations of consumer co-ops, representing 75 million consumer members. These are our owners, and our national organizations combine for a cumulative $550 billion of annual turnover. Our members span 3 continents, and as I said, ICCW and ICA Africa have established some very close relations and are gradually and constantly exploring the potential to reinforce the consumer co-op movement in Africa. Some general facts. Retailers are known as the gatekeepers to the consumers because of our direct access to shoppers' everyday habits. Retailers' currency is actually not money. We like to say that it is consumer trust, simply because every aspect of our business is based on generating value for the consumer. Consumer co-ops are, in essence, retailers. They're supermarket chains. But this relationship with the consumer is much deeper and inherent because we are owned by the very individuals who shop at our stores. They are our shareholders, our owners. Our members' extensive store network ranges from hypermarkets to rural stores, from brick and mortar to e-commerce. Regardless of the form, we're always close to the consumer. Private label products are known everywhere around the globe and have increased in popularity, availability, and affordability. Consumer cooperatives are front runners in developing their own brands because this is where we have 100% control, from the production phase to the supermarket. Therefore, the co-op brand products are the main instrument to implement in practice the cooperative principles, values, and ethics. What sets us apart and makes us distinct as retail operators is that consumer co-ops converge consumer expectations with suppliers' needs and the planetary boundaries. This translates to higher product information, consumer awareness, product quality and nutrition, eco-packaging, fair price, and local food. In short, whilst it is generally the practice to maximize profit through private label goods by keeping the price low, consumer cooperatives focus on maximizing benefit to the consumer and value for the environment while still making a profit. Some leading examples from our members, you can see Finland with a 46% market share, generating $13.5 billion of turnover. They are masters of sustainability, and mind you, 80% of the country, yes, it is, let's say, a relatively small population of 5 million, but still 80% of the population are members of the co-op. In Japan, they boast 28 million individual consumer members. They generate $30 billion of turnover, and they boast more than 4,000 co-op private label products. South Korea, even though it is a relatively new organization established in 1997, they're developing really well and expanding gradually through socioeconomic clusters, generating an annual turnover of around $600 million. And Italy, a very long established consumer co-op movement of about 175 years. They are market leaders with 20% market share. They generate $15 billion, and something which has helped them scale up their business is the fact that national legislation, of course, helps for this, is so-called social funding. Basically, the individual members of the co-op can deposit their own funds, their money, up to 100,000 euros in the cooperative. This provides liquidity and cash flow for the co-op to expand their business. Of course, there are different set of criteria where they need to basically act like a bank, and they need to guarantee those loans and provide a limited interest and all that. But of course, one of my roles today is to talk about policy and regulation. This is a fine example of how an enabling environment in terms of policy and regulation helps the development of the cooperative movement. Moving along, consumer cooperatives are at the forefront of the transformation of food systems because of their holistic approach to sustainability by converging social and health, environmental and economic sustainability. We engage consumers in embracing responsible consumption and sustainable lifestyles through innovative offerings, particularly our own brands, as mentioned. Consumers' health and information and awareness is something we master through improving product labeling, maximizing product information, and mainstreaming product reformulation. We generate environmental sustainability through a plethora of actions, focusing on setting climate targets and working with our partners to do the same through ever-increasing energy efficiency, optimizing plastics, improving recyclability, but to name a few. We drive sustainability through optimizing internal operations, investing in long-term partnerships along the value chain, including with farmers and primary producers, and improving our own products catering to consumer demand and preferences. Economic sustainability should not be forgotten. This means generating business value for sustainable growth. We advance sustainable production by working with our suppliers and primary producers, be it in moving to organic or other sustainable production methods, in capacity building, facilitating their own climate targets, and even protecting them from market volatilities whenever possible. Digital technologies are an indispensable part of these actions. I will gladly share some of the examples, and you see them here on the screen. Consumer cooperatives have managed to maximize the potential of technology through e-commerce, blockchain to guarantee traceability and origin, of course, a wide array of mobile apps, including a manless store, basically a fully automatic store, which is running its pilot project at the moment in Norway and in Sweden, where the store is unlocked by the mobile app and you don't need any cash payments. Everything is done through the mobile app. Big data is also something which consumer cooperatives are very proud of, because consumers, consumer co-ops, so retailers, they collect a large amount of big data from the consumers based on their shoppings and everything like that. Normal businesses, it is not forbidden. They sell that data to other businesses for profit, obviously, the whole Facebook way of doing business. But consumer co-ops don't engage in that. They actually take the big data, they process it, and then they bring it back to the consumer to help them transition to more sustainable practices and more sustainable lifestyles. Here on the screen, the top bottom left corner, you see a mobile app of co-op in Finland, a consumer co-op in Finland, where they generate each individual member's shopping baskets based on the groceries that you do. And they visualize, it's called something like the fitness coach or the calorie counter. They can show each single individual how much salt, sugar, or fat you have taken based on your products. So when you talk about helping consumers to shop more sustainably or consume more healthily, well, I don't think it gets any better than this. Of course, artificial intelligence is also the order of the day, and Co-op Sweden is developing at the moment a pilot project where they have augmented reality through your mobile devices in the store. It's being it's being very popular with the children, as you can imagine. And last but not least, e-health. Now, when we talk about revitalizing rural areas, I think something very important for the African continent, medical services are just as important, if not the most important thing. And what e-health is, and I'm sure next time around, we should invite a representative of the health cooperatives, but something which my own mother organization or national organization, CCU Bulgaria, where I started my my career path, they have developed a pilot project where through a medical case, so it's basically like a briefcase, it is actually a medical unit where a doctor can go around in all the rural areas and offer to the rural population a set of services. Anyway, check your blood pressure or any other relative stuff like this, and automatically through technology, obviously the information, the results are sent back to the hospital. Then this way, the link between the physician and the client is maintained, and it does not. They actually don't have. You don't need to. You take the hospital to the village and not the person to the hospital. And I think it's only a pilot phase, but the technology is being further developed, and I think it will be something mainstreamed in the next decade. Here you see a picture of what I mentioned, the manless store in Finland, in Sweden and Norway, apologies, where this is how the consumer can unlock the store. There's no other human being in there, probably if there's another consumer, but there's no clerks or anything, and you can do your shopping. It's ideal for rural areas where you don't need to secure at all times a store clerk, and you can keep the shop running 24/7. Here's the example of the augmented reality, and you see a young child having fun while in the store. He sees different, I don't know, animals in the hallway and all that. And something very cool about sustainable consumption is a digital label which gives you the footprint of all 17,000 food products sold by Co-op Sweden. Basically, you take your mobile phone, you run the Co-op app, you scan any barcode of any product you see in the store, and this label comes up according to 10 parameters developed by WWF about not only the environmental footprint of the food, but also the social footprint. And you can see here on the right, this spider web. The objective of this web is to draw as close to the center as possible, which would mean as low impact as possible for the environment and indigenous people, because you see the parameters here in front of you. The footprint, or basically the footprint of the food, the 10 parameters are biodiversity loss, climate change, soil degradation, water consumption, pesticides and chemicals, eutrophication, animal welfare, working conditions, local population, and compliance and traceability. So as you can see, digital innovation utilized by consumer co-ops is almost endless. Now, we are here to discuss our understanding of what digital agriculture is and what prospects and challenges it has. Achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals of a world with zero hunger by 2030 will require more productive, efficient, sustainable, inclusive, transparent, and resilient food systems. As we heard from the other speakers so far, digital innovation and technologies are part of the solution. The so-called fourth industrial revolution is expected to see complete operationalization of a digital agriculture system. As explained, technology will assist the farmer in gathering data more frequently and accurately, often combined with external sources such as weather information. The resulting combined data is analyzed and interpreted so the farmer can make more informed, appropriate decisions. These decisions can be quickly implemented with greater accuracy through robotics and advanced machinery, and farmers can get real-time feedback on the impact of their actions. In the context of the Sustainable Development Goals, digital agriculture has the potential to deliver more economic benefits through increased agriculture productivity, cost efficiency, market opportunities, social and cultural benefits through increased communication and inclusivity, and environmental benefits through optimized resource use as well as adaptation to climate change. Access to digital technology can offer significant advantages to smallholder farmers and other rural businesses by providing links to suppliers and information and allowing users to tap into workforce talent, build strategic partnership, access support services such as training, extremely important, finance and legal services, critically reaching markets and customers. But there are challenges, ladies and gentlemen, such as the introduction of digital technologies in rural areas. Around the world, rural populations are declining and education and employment opportunities are limited. There is often a lack of infrastructure, including basic IT infrastructure, particularly in remote rural communities. This results in low connectivity. Some 3.8 billion people, basically more than half of the current population of the planet, 3.8 billion people still remain offline and are disproportionately located in rural and remote areas. To solve this and other issues, policymakers need to utilize a holistic approach. It's impossible to tackle the problem working in silos. Trust me, my main job is following and working with the European Union institutions for years, if not decades, but at least my experience is only for the last couple of years. They've been working in silos when it comes to transforming food systems. Finally, with the EU Green Deal and the Farm to Fork strategy and all that, only the last 2 years, they've managed to somehow start talking about utilizing a holistic approach. A suggestion is integrating the agri-food sector as a key focus within existing national digital strategies that aim to transform the wider industry and society. We saw this slide presented by my colleagues earlier, but let me go through it counterclockwise. Basically, digital agriculture will help with attaining the SDGs by obviously increasing yield, which is SDG 2, and having zero hunger. It will help with targeted irrigation, SDG 6, clean water and sanitation. It will give the power of information to the farmer, thus contributing to SDG 8, decent work and economic growth. Technology will allow for better monitoring waste production, contributing to SDG 12, responsible consumption and production, more and improved integration, thus contributing to SDG 11, sustainable cities and communities, improving supply chains, SDG 9, industry, innovation and infrastructure, improving fish farming, life below water, SDG 14, improved land management, life on land, SDG 15, and most critically, I think for today's session is allow sharing of information, which will allow partnerships for the goals SDG 17. The cooperative movement is all about partnership. Cooperative principle number 6 is cooperation among cooperatives. Now, with its large farming sector and consumer market, Africa is anticipated to be a major testing ground for digital solutions by our agri-tech groups. The green and just transition, because the green transition must be a just transition, will be accelerated by the digital transformation. But it will only be successful if value is generated and not only extracted. It must be generated. This calls for a change in the approach and ideology of doing business, as well as the principles and the funding criteria. Increasingly, one of the recommendations is open source technology. Otherwise, a company which has developed the technology will have the property rights and will not be obliged to share it. We see here in front of us some key recommendations which CCW has developed for your attention. They are structured into categories. One is towards policymakers, and let's start with a radical rethinking of models and policy. We cannot continue as business as usual. It's just not going to work, and we see it. Policymakers need to utilize a holistic approach so that the following aspects are interconnected and tackled in parallel, not consecutively, in parallel. So infrastructure and connectivity, including mobile subscriptions, network coverage, internet access, and electricity supply. As I mentioned, some 3.8 billion people around the world are disconnected. We need to connect them, and we need to improve in parallel the connection, or the, let's say, the quality of the connected world. We also need to tackle affordability so that more people can more easily tap and access digital innovation. So we need funding. It was mentioned today, in a very detailed level, funding and access to capital. Of course, education and skill is something very important because we know that parts of the world, education and skills are at a very low level, and especially literacy in ICT technology. Institutional support, without it, we're all doomed. So we're talking about institutional support on national level, so governments, national authorities, but also talking about Africa in the ACFTA, in the free trading agreement. So basically continental, international support. We're talking about focusing on rural areas. We're talking about focusing not only, we need an equal level playing field for business models. So we're not talking only about the private shareholding company business model, we're talking about cooperatives, or something which has come into the mainstream more recently, the SIBMs. It sounds like specialized intercontinental ballistic missiles, but it's not ballistic missiles, it is actually sustainable and inclusive business models, including cooperatives. We're talking about value creation and not value extraction. So far, value is predominantly extracted, but not created. Or when it is created, it is not shared. We need to change these things. And in the end, open source technology so that when something is developed, other actors can implement it easily so that there are no high barrier costs into tapping in the having access to this digital innovation. Now, what can co-ops play? What role can co-ops play? As I mentioned, we are part of the solution. Co-ops utilize people-centered businesses. They are inclusive. We generate added value, which contributes to local development. And last but not least, something which the private shareholding company model has been failing at consistently is that cooperatives approach sustainability holistically. We care about economic prosperity, we generate social value, and we also create environmental sustainability. Our second set of key recommendations focuses on intercooperation. This is where we come into play, the cooperative movement and the different sectors of the cooperative economy. Co-op to co-op supply chains are extremely important. In my case, I would say, in our case, I would say consumer cooperatives and agricultural cooperatives have a lot of potential to explore. I have a dream for the cooperative movement, and this is as follows. An agricultural co-op or a production co-op or an employee-based co-op produces goods and services, and let's say, roughly speaking, sells them to a consumer cooperative so that the consumer cooperative can sell them on to the consumer. That process is funded by a cooperative bank and insured by a cooperative insurance. All these, agricultural co-op, employee-based co-op, consumer co-op, co-op banking and co-op insurance, all are established movements in our sectors of the ICA. We're all talking to each other, we're all there. It's just a matter of sitting down, exploring common ambitions, common objectives, and mapping out and writing down a step plan of how we can develop the cooperative economy. And this way, we control 100% of the supply chain. We don't need any private banks or private insurance. Everything can be kept in-house in a way. This, of course, is my dream. It's all beautiful when we have dreams, right? We need to focus on capacity building, training, access to markets. And last but not least, again, coming back to the policymakers, we need to explore what potential there is between European Union and African Union trade. The European Union did implement or is thinking about an Africa strategy. This year, they're actually organizing 2 EU-Africa summits. One is a private one. The other one is actually not private initiative. It is actually an initiative of the European Union. There we can talk about the green transition, digital transformation, what the European Union can help in terms of capacity building and funding, in terms of free and fair trade, transparency, strict control and accountability, and very importantly, reskilling and upskilling, because the digital transformation is going to create new jobs. These new jobs are going to require new skills. So either an entirely new skills, so we're talking about reskilling, or somehow changed jobs, let's say scaled up jobs, which is going to require upskilling. And now the European Union is paying more and more attention, and it is high time that in their relations with the African Union, we can discuss what type of policies exactly and what type of actions are needed. To put things in perspective, $15 billion is the estimated digital agriculture market in 2021. 80% of the companies are expecting competitive advantage from digitalization. So digital innovation is here to stay, and it's only going to exponentially grow. And 60% is needed. A 60% increase is needed in food supply in order to feed the population in 2021 and beyond. And these are current estimates. Actually, there might be even some old estimates done in 2019 and 2020. So all this is the perspective, and digital innovation is going to get us there. We need the right set of tools and instruments for businesses and an enabling policy and regulatory environment to follow through. Now, we know that the digital revolution and digital expansion develops much faster than any legal system or policy system can, unfortunately, but this is why we need people like us lobbying our policymakers on local, national, continental, global level in order to have an enabling environment for our businesses to grow. Now, the digitalization of agriculture will cause a significant shift in farming and food production over the coming years. Potential environmental, economic, and social benefits are significant, but there are associated challenges. Disparities in access to digital technologies, as I said, and services mean that there is a risk for a digital divide. Smallholder farmers and others in rural areas are particularly at risk of being left behind, not only in terms of literacy and access to digital resources, but also in terms of productivity and aspects of economic and social integration. Simply introducing technologies is not enough to generate results. That's clear. Social, economic, and policy streams will need to provide the basic conditions and enablers for digital transformation. Fairness and inclusion are principles which must be at the core of policymakers' strategic planning and policy implementation. This makes a wonderful case to ask for more recognition and tools for upscaling cooperatives. If digital farming is developed solely through private and venture capital, huge risks exist, while any value created will be owned by the private shareholder rather than the farmers and local communities. In conclusion, I can say that we need, in a nutshell, policy and regulatory framework. What does that mean? We need to focus on developing infrastructure, physical and digital, but let's focus on the digital, access to funding, and education and skills. Who is responsible for that? Well, the national authorities clearly, but also the African continental free and trade area can do something about that. In terms of intercooperation, as I mentioned, co-op to co-op supply chains, we don't need any policymakers for that. It's all based on our own ambitions and will and time. The African continent can do something about it too, the individual national governments. And last but not least, looking internationally, relations between the European Union and the African Union trade. I would like to thank you once again for inviting consumer cooperatives worldwide to contribute to today's seminar. I may have taken more time than allocated, for which I apologize. And we definitely look forward to continuing our collaboration. Dr. Sifa, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Todor. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you very much. I think it was worth it. And it was a good conclusion, by the way. I think we have made the life of Dr. Karemi very easy. Good recommendations, good insights, good recommendations there. And especially talking at a high level, how our continents, our nations, and what's also our cooperative can do vis-a-vis this digitalization and to have a more fairer world. There is a thin line between or separating the agricultural cooperative from consumer cooperatives, and in most of the cases, it is done by the agricultural cooperatives where we don't have the consumer cooperatives. We promise you that if not in a near future, if you don't have a consumer cooperative member from Africa, then AACO itself will become the member of CCW very soon. So, and it will be through these digital platforms. Without further ado, because of time, I would like not to take much of the time. The questions can still be answered through the chats. Can I then request Dr. Karemi if she's ready to give us the conclusion and recommendations, as we really don't have time for more questions. And I think the chats has done us great. There is a good engagement on the chats. So Dr. Karemi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Sifa, and I'll take this time to thank all the speakers. I think that was a very engaging discussion that you have made us have today, and especially given the chats that people are still contributing and sharing information. Mine really, as Dr. Sifa said, due to time, I will just give a recap of what we went through, and then finally add a few things, especially from what I can see some of the participants giving. I would like first to bring our attention to why the seminar. We were trying to look at how we can leverage on the digital innovation to improve the resilience of agricultural cooperatives, and that has been brought out very well. From the background paper, we came up with, Ken very well gave us the key suggestions on what we need to do, having given us a context of the challenges that exist. We had challenges in the infrastructure, challenges about the literacy levels and what came out as cooperatives not being, or even agribusinesses lacking professionalism in what they do. And that also leads to, among other things, their lack of access to finance, because no financier would really like to deal with people without proper financial management or governance and leadership in their organizations. So having those challenges, then digital innovation gives us the opportunity to leverage on as cooperatives and other agricultural or agribusinesses. And the suggestions he gave were, first, there is need to boost the internal digital readiness of the organization and the digital agricultural capacity. And this, he gave a number of things. So moving away from paper-based to digital, or even having digital managers as opposed to what we have initially. Then developing a data and digital transformation strategy. That was key and very important, where organizations such as agricultural cooperatives really need to have a digital transformation strategy. And that will become a building block then to their business or digital business transformation. Then there was need to build partnerships with key digital agricultural ecosystems, players, where you need to engage on advocacy at all levels. So from national regional to even the international stage. And then there is also need to engage an interesting audience or an interesting partnership with youth and women. And we've seen that the gap of education or literacy levels can also, by the presentation we got from Sylvia, can be closed by engaging youth in our organizations or cooperatives. And then finally, the key recommendation was to actively engage in key digital agricultural project implementations. And I believe a forum such as this gives us insights as to who is working out there, whom we can engage with. That then took us to the next session. And in this next session, we are looking at access to finance. And in access to finance, we earned a very interesting insight from NITI, that is from International Trade Corporation. And NITI was giving us the challenges of access to digital finance by small-scale farmers, and the people to close the gap were none other than cooperatives. So here exists an opportunity for cooperatives to help the small-scale farmers access digital finance. But there was an issue with access to digital finance because the cooperatives themselves are either not aware or there is very low uptake of digital financial services by cooperatives. And that means then if that exists, then the small scale farmers may not have access to that. Now, with these challenges that exist, she gave a solution, and the solution was to partner in training or giving the information about these digital financial services and other capacity gaps that exist among the cooperatives. And ITC, that is what they do. So she not only identified the challenges, but she also gave us a way out, that ITC is willing and it's available to work with cooperatives so that they can increase their technical capacity in addressing these gaps that exist so that the farmers can access the digital finance. Then came the issue about professionalizing, the professionalization of farmers. And this was presented by Malice from Scope Insight, where she gave us the problem. The problem is that access to finance exists because financial solution providers find that the small-scale farmers and even the cooperatives associated with them are a big risk. The transaction costs are very high in dealing with them. And therefore, as Scope Insight, they provide a service of how to professionalize the agribusinesses, SMEs and cooperatives, in first of all, assessing them. By assessing them, they're using standard tools, and these tools then help them to objectively assess the organizations. After assessing them, then they are able to make digital profiles, which they are able to link to the financial services providers. And before linking them, there is also the gaps that they identify in these organizations. Once the gaps have been identified, then that helps in training. And I remember Malice saying that the mindset that Ken identified that there needs to be a change of our mindset, then this assessment actually helps the organizations to change or to have a mindset change, because then they're able to know they need to be professional, but for them to be professional, this is what they need to do. And that helps them because with that kind of data, they are able to link them to the financial service providers. And with access to finance, then some of their many problems can be sorted, including funding digital innovation technologies. Then from access to markets, we had an interesting expose from China that is on how they have been able to leverage on digital technologies to improve the performance of their cooperatives, their agricultural cooperatives, ranging from having set up an e-mall. They are also using live streams for farmers to sell their products. They also have an e-commerce platform, an e-commerce organization or cooperative. And this example has really shown that even in Africa, much as we may right now be having a mindset that digital technologies could be 1,000 steps away from us, but this is possible, this can be done. And I believe with collaboration with other cooperatives that have done it, such as in China, in Korea, and even in Europe, we are able to jump and actually use these digital technologies. Then from there, we end a very interesting solution on youth engagement from Sylvia. Youth engagement in terms of how do you engage youth in agriculture? It needs to be exciting and interesting for them. And so from that experience, youth have been able to not only be mentored by the cooperatives, but they have also been able to become very successful in using digital technologies to provide services and also to be innovative enough to create their own social enterprises along the value addition in that case. Now, from there, we went to the next session where we are looking at best cases. And I found from Sarah, we got a best case from Zambia on accessing the digital finance services. And she expounded that the digital finance services also include insurance or microinsurance services for crops and also for the livestock. And this is, sorry, I've forgotten something. I've forgotten about access to markets in session 2. Sorry about that. We had a very engaging presentation from East African Grain Council that actually shows that even in East Africa or in Africa, we are trying to do something about digital innovation, where we have the electronic warehouse receipt systems that can actually give confidence to the financiers that the farmers or the cooperatives have actually a product that they are able to finance. And from there, we can actually see how it's possible to scale up such kind of digital innovations, even from all crops, because this was about grains. Then when we go to the best cases, that is in session 3, we have the digital finance services from IFAN, from their project. And then from Korea, we got the digital farms. So along the chain, we are not only talking about digital infrastructure for marketing or consumers, but all the way from the farm, using the drones, the Internet of Things, and all these other things that the Koreans are using. This is possible. However, the presenter, Mr. Hong, gave us the challenges that exist. This requires infrastructure, it requires funding, and because of that, the Federation, again, has come to aid the farmers, because for an individual farmer, this then becomes very expensive. But from a collective point of the Federation, then they are able to together educate the farmers on how to use the technology, provide funding, and also the market access through what Dr. Sifa expounded later, that they have the vending machines for their cooperatives. That was in session 3. And then finally, session 4, which I believe we all have in our minds, and the issue of the consumer cooperatives. And that was very strategic because the consumers are the market for the agricultural cooperatives. Therefore, it was important to have Todol give us the issue about the consumer cooperatives approach in getting or in leveraging on the digital technology. And because the consumer cooperatives provide a market access for the agricultural cooperatives, then the recommendations he has given are very relevant, and it will only be important that we will not end just the webinar and end it here, but we should continue conversations with consumer cooperatives. I think from the map he gave you of the consumer cooperatives worldwide, you found that there is no member from Africa, yet we are talking about market access for our cooperatives. There cannot be market access without a consumer cooperative. If cooperative to cooperative cooperation has to be scaled up or engaged. But with the challenges that he gave, then about the need for having an enabling policy environment, then it's also important to look back to what Ken talked about, advocacy and lobbying, especially with the policymakers, to ensure that there is infrastructure and connectivity, because we may speak and preach about digital innovation, but without the right infrastructure and connectivity, then it may not happen for us. Then there's also the issue of affordability. It could be there, but it could not be accessible, although we have gotten solutions on how it can be made more affordable by having cooperatives working together to make this affordable. Then there's the issue of education and skills. Literacy levels were brought out from the beginning, and now as a recommendation, it's important to capacitate the cooperative members and also the individual farmers on how to utilize these technologies, and also those without the skills to upscale them. And then the need for institutional support, not only at the national level, but at the continental level, especially to leverage on the Africa Free Trade Area opportunities. Now, what's the role of cooperatives? They need to continue generating value so that there can be the model, as inclusive as it is, it can benefit not only the cooperatives, but also the society in which they are operating, because we know that this is a model that not only generates profit, not profit, but generates benefits for its members, but also for the community because of their concern for community element. And then there was a key recommendation about intercooperation. I believe with intercooperation, that is cooperatives to cooperative supply chains. This is where cooperatives are cooperating among themselves. Then there is going to be more synergistic effects, because there will be more benefits if a consumer cooperative links with an agricultural cooperative. In that linkage, there is financing provided by a cooperative bank or a savings and credit cooperative society. There is insurance provided by a cooperative insurance. There is distribution or transport or marketing done by a marketing cooperative, etc. There are many opportunities within the cooperative ecosystem. And I believe with other stakeholders, there will be more opportunities, or there will be more potential that will be unleashed from this cooperation. And there was also the key recommendation of the European Union and the Africa Union cooperation that exists. So I think it's an opportunity for all of us here present to, beyond this conference, think about how to leverage on all these opportunities that exist, and especially when it came to even participating in the projects that exist or in future projects on digital agricultural implementation that was mentioned at the beginning. More of this we shall give in the report. I think I'm just conscious of the time and I hope to end here. But there was a key recommendation that a participant gave, I think from Tunisia, about why not an African e-commerce platform? And that can be possible with ICA Africa taking the lead. I think that's a challenge that Dr. Sifa and team should think about, having an e-commerce platform for Africa, for cooperatives, especially with us taking the lead. Thank you very much. And once again, thank you all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Karemi. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Karemi. I think quite a number of people have alluded to the same, and we have also said the role that AACO could play in these digital platforms, and e-commerce is only one of them, but and especially also scaling up the work of the Eastern African Grain Council as they only focus on some crops. ICA Africa then partnering with them and other partners then can scale up the scope, but also the scale and the scope of what already they are doing. And that also include already the e-commerce, but that will be done through AACO. I think without further ado, I'd like first to foremost to thank all the participants. They have been wonderful. It has been long. We are almost 1 hour and a half late. But we still have people who are still following up. We'd like to thank our sponsors, WeEffect, IFAD, CCW, and Africa Prudential, and all the other members who have freed themselves to follow. I think all of us, we have learned something. What we promise that through AACO, we'll continue this conversation as a group, but also bilateral with those who, so that we can see these digital platforms taking shape in our agricultural cooperatives in Africa. Without further ado, I'd like also to thank the technical team from ICA Africa who has worked beyond the scene to make sure that we have a wonderful conference. Same with the speakers who have spared time to prepare for their notes, and also participating. We have very good insight from all the speakers. And also the engagement and quite a lot of learning from the participants from the chat, that the exchanges that we have seen from the chats. So once again, thank you for coming, and God bless you. Thank you. Bye. And the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Sifa.
Thank you, Musa, and thank you for being there, and everyone else who has been there until the last time. We know it's already too late for our friend in Asia. It's past midnight there already. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.